What if the biggest thing stopping you from becoming successful, confident, happy, or respected is the image you have of yourself inside your own mind? According to the groundbreaking book Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, your brain works like a success machine, but most people unknowingly program it for failure. In this audiobook summary, you will discover how your self-image controls your actions, why talented people still struggle with confidence, and how simple mental techniques can completely transform the way you think, feel, and perform in life. If you have ever felt stuck, insecure, unmotivated, or capable of much more than your current reality, then this video is for you. By the end of this audiobook, you will understand how to reprogram your mind for confidence, success, happiness, and personal growth. So listen carefully, because one idea from this book has the power to change the direction of your entire life. The self-image, your key to a better life. Have you ever noticed how two people with the same talent, same opportunities, and even similar intelligence can end up living completely different lives? One becomes confident, successful, and respected, while the other constantly doubts themselves, avoids opportunities, and settles for less than they deserve. According to Psycho-Cybernetics, the difference is not luck, talent, or destiny. The difference is self-image. Maxwell Maltz explains that every human being carries a mental picture of themselves deep inside their mind. This self-image acts like an invisible blueprint that controls behavior, decisions, confidence, habits, and even relationships. Whether that image is accurate or completely false does not matter to the subconscious mind. Once you believe something about yourself repeatedly, your mind starts acting as if it is true. This is why some people secretly believe they are not good enough, even when others admire them. They may receive compliments, opportunities, or praise, but internally they reject it because it conflicts with the image they have created about themselves. Imagine a student who gets good marks but still believes they are bad at studies. During exams, they panic, overthink, and underperform because their mind is trying to stay consistent with their self-image. The same thing happens in careers, friendships, business, and personal goals. Maltz discovered this idea through his work as a plastic surgeon. He noticed something shocking. Some patients completely transformed their lives after surgery. A person who once felt unattractive suddenly became confident, social, and ambitious. They spoke differently, walked differently, and started believing in themselves. But strangely, other patients looked physically improved and still felt miserable. Even after surgery, they continued thinking they were ugly, worthless, or unlovable. Their outer appearance changed, but their inner self-image stayed the same. This led Maltz to a life-changing realization. Changing your face does not automatically change your life. Changing your self-image does. Think about how powerful this idea is. Many people spend years trying to improve external things: money, clothes, appearance, status, followers, achievements, believing these things will finally make them feel confident. But if their inner self-image remains broken, insecurity continues following them everywhere. A person can earn more money and still feel poor inside. They can become famous and still feel invisible. They can enter relationships and still feel unworthy of love. Your self-image silently shapes your reality. Imagine someone who believes, "I am awkward around people." Even before entering a conversation, their brain starts searching for proof to support that belief. They become nervous, avoid eye contact, speak less, and overanalyze every interaction afterward. Eventually, the conversation feels uncomfortable, which strengthens the belief even more. It becomes a self-fulfilling cycle. Now imagine another person who believes, "I can learn social skills and improve." They may still feel nervous at first, but their identity is different. Instead of treating mistakes as proof of failure, they treat them as part of growth. Over time, their behavior changes because their self-image allows improvement. This chapter teaches that your mind always tries to stay consistent with the image you hold about yourself. If you see yourself as weak, your actions will unconsciously support weakness. If you see yourself as capable, resilient, and worthy of success, your actions slowly begin aligning with that identity. One of the most dangerous things about negative self-image is that it often forms during childhood and stays unquestioned for years. A child repeatedly criticized by parents, teachers, or classmates may start believing statements like, "I'm not smart," "I'm unattractive," "I always fail," "I can't speak confidently," "I'm unlucky," Over time, these statements stop feeling like opinions and start feeling like facts. People carry these invisible labels into adulthood without realizing they are living inside a mental prison created years ago. But Maltz gives hope. He explains that self-image is learned, which means it can also be changed. Just like a computer follows the programming installed inside it, your subconscious follows the instructions you repeatedly give it. If you constantly replay memories of embarrassment, failure, and rejection, your brain treats those experiences as evidence of who you are. But if you start feeding your mind new experiences, visualizations, and beliefs, your internal identity can slowly transform. This is why visualization becomes so important in the book. Athletes, performers, and successful individuals often mentally rehearse success before it happens. They repeatedly imagine themselves performing confidently and successfully. This trains the subconscious mind to accept success as natural instead of unfamiliar. For example, imagine someone terrified of public speaking. Their current self-image says, "I embarrass myself when I speak." Instead of reinforcing that fear, they could spend a few minutes daily imagining themselves speaking calmly and confidently. They picture the audience listening carefully, themselves speaking clearly, and finishing successfully. At first it feels fake, but over time the brain starts accepting this new image as possible. Eventually behavior begins changing in real life. This chapter is not asking you to lie to yourself or pretend you are perfect. It is asking you to stop defining yourself by your past mistakes. Failure is an event, not an identity. A person who failed a business is not a failure. A person rejected in relationships is not unlovable. A person who struggled in school is not unintelligent. The moment you separate your identity from your temporary experiences, growth becomes possible. So ask yourself honestly, what labels have I accepted about myself without questioning them? What would I attempt if I truly believed I was capable? Am I living according to my true potential, or according to an old self-image created by fear and past experiences? If my self-image improved today, how would my decisions change tomorrow? The powerful truth behind this chapter is simple but life-changing. You rarely outperform the image you hold of yourself. Change that image, and your behavior, confidence, habits, and future can begin changing too. Main points key lessons your self-image is the mental picture you have of yourself. Your subconscious mind acts according to the self-image. External success alone cannot fix internal insecurity. Negative beliefs formed in childhood often continue into adulthood. Your mind tries to stay consistent with what you believe about yourself. Visualization and mental rehearsal can slowly reshape identity. Failure is something that happens to you, not who you are. Actionable lessons you can apply. Identify negative labels you repeat about yourself. Write down thoughts like "I'm not confident" or "I always fail," and question whether they are truly facts. Practice daily visualization. Spend 5 to 10 minutes imagining yourself succeeding in situations where you normally feel fear or insecurity. Stop replaying old failures repeatedly. Your brain learns from repetition. Focus more on possibilities than past embarrassment. Change your internal language. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," say, "I am learning to improve at this." Build small wins. Confidence grows through evidence. Start with small actions that slowly strengthen your self-image. Separate identity from mistakes. A bad result does not define who you are as a person. Reflective questions: what kind of person do I believe I am deep inside? Are my daily actions supporting growth or reinforcing fear? Which old belief about myself need to be replaced? What would my life look like if I genuinely believed in my potential? Discovering the success mechanism within you. What if success is not something reserved for a lucky few, but something your brain was already designed to achieve from the moment you were born? In this chapter of Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz introduces one of the most fascinating ideas in the entire book. Every human being already possesses an internal success mechanism. According to him, your mind and nervous system work very much like a guided missile system. Once given a clear target, it automatically begins steering you toward that goal, often in ways you do not consciously notice. Think about how a missile works. It does not travel perfectly in a straight line. It constantly makes small mistakes, adjusts its direction, corrects itself, and keeps moving toward its destination. Human beings operate in a surprisingly similar way. Your brain gathers information, learns from errors, adapts, and slowly guides you toward whatever target you consistently focus on. The problem is that most people never intentionally choose their targets. Instead, they spend their lives focusing on fear, failure, embarrassment, and limitation. As a result, their internal mechanism works faithfully toward those negative outcomes. Maltz explains that the subconscious mind does not judge whether a goal is good or bad. It simply responds to what you repeatedly tell it is important. If someone constantly thinks, "I always mess things up," their mind starts searching for ways to prove that belief true. They hesitate, overthink, avoid opportunities, and become anxious during important moments. Eventually mistakes happen, which strengthens a belief even more. Their success mechanism has unknowingly become a failure mechanism. Now imagine a different scenario. Picture a young man preparing for a job interview. One version of him spends days imagining rejection. He keeps replaying thoughts like, "I'm not good enough, they won't like me, or I'll embarrass myself." By the time the interview arrives, his nervous system is already trained for fear. He speaks nervously, avoids eye contact, and struggles to think clearly. But another version of that same person uses his mind differently. Before the interview, he visualizes himself speaking calmly and confidently. He imagines answering questions clearly and shaking hands confidently at the end. He does not know exactly what will happen, but he trains his mind to move toward success instead of fear. As a result, his behavior changes naturally. He appears more relaxed, more prepared, and more capable. This is one of the central messages of the chapter. Your brain responds strongly to mental pictures and repeated focus. Whatever dominates your imagination gradually influences your actions, emotions, and results. Maltz argues that nature itself built the success mechanism into human beings. When a baby learns to walk, they fail hundreds of times. They fall constantly, yet they never sit down and conclude, "Walking is not for me." They simply keep adjusting until they succeed. Imagine how different life would be if adults approach goals with the same attitude. Most people fail once or twice and immediately transform temporary failure into permanent identity. They say things like, "I'm just not confident. I'm bad at business. I'm not talented. I can't change." But the truth is that failure is often part of the correction process. Just like a missile adjusts its path, human beings learn through mistakes. The problem begins when people emotionally overreact to errors and stop moving altogether. One of the most powerful examples of this can be seen in sports. A basketball player misses several shots during a game and suddenly begins doubting themselves. The more they think about missing, the worse they perform. Their body tightens, concentration weakens, and fear takes over. But experienced athletes know something important. Overthinking destroys natural performance. The best athletes trust their training and allow their subconscious abilities to operate freely. Maltz explains that many people unknowingly interfere with their own success mechanism by constantly worrying, forcing, doubting, and criticizing themselves. It is like planting a seed and digging it up every day to check whether it is growing. Growth requires trust, patience, and consistent direction. This chapter also introduces the idea that your subconscious mind works best when given a clear goal. Without direction, people drift through life reacting emotionally to circumstances. But when you define a meaningful target, your brain begins noticing opportunities, ideas, solutions, and connections that were previously ignored. You may have experienced this yourself without realizing it. Perhaps you once became interested in buying a certain phone, car, or product, and suddenly you started seeing it everywhere. The object was always around you, but now your mind considered it important, so your awareness changed. In the same way, when you commit to a goal, your brain starts filtering information differently. Opportunities become more visible because your attention changes. Maltz encourages readers to stop obsessing over how every goal will happen immediately. Instead, focus clearly on the destination while trusting your mind's ability to help guide you there step by step. This does not mean sitting passively and waiting for miracles. It means combining clear goals with consistent action and trusting the learning process. Imagine someone who dreams of becoming physically fit but constantly says, "I'll never be disciplined." Their self-image and internal dialogue sabotage progress before it begins. But if they instead focus on becoming healthier one step at a time, their actions slowly align with the goal. They start taking walks, improving meals, sleeping better, and exercising consistently. The transformation does not happen overnight, but the success mechanism starts working because the target became clear. This chapter also teaches an important lesson about relaxation. Many people think success comes only from intense pressure and non-stop stress. But Maltz argues that excessive tension actually interferes with performance. When people panic, their thinking narrows, creativity decreases, and mistakes increase. Calmness allows the subconscious mind to function effectively. Think about moments when solutions suddenly appeared while showering, relaxing, or taking a walk. Often the answer came only after you stopped forcing it. Your subconscious continues working even when your conscious mind rests. So ask yourself, what goals am I feeding my mind every day? Am I focusing more on what I want or what I fear? What would change if I trusted myself more? Am I allowing mistakes to teach me, or am I using them as proof that I should quit? If my brain naturally moves toward the targets I focus on, what kind of future am I programming into my mind right now? The deeper message of this chapter is incredibly empowering. You do not need to become a completely different person to achieve success. You already possess powerful mental machinery inside you. The real challenge is learning how to direct it properly. When your goals become clear, your imagination becomes constructive, and your self-image becomes healthier, your mind begins working with you instead of against you. Main points: key lessons. Every human being has a built-in success mechanism. The subconscious mind moves toward the goals you consistently focus on. Your brain works similarly to a guided missile that learns through correction. Mistakes are part of the learning process, not proof of failure. Repeated negative thinking trains the mind toward failure. Clear goals help the brain notice opportunities and solutions. Excessive worry and tension interfere with performance, visualization, and mental focus. Influence real-life behavior. Actionable lessons you can apply to find clear goals. Write down specific goals instead of vague wishes. Your mind works better with clear direction. Monitor your dominant thoughts. Pay attention to whether you focus more on fear or desired outcomes. Practice mental rehearsal. Spend a few minutes daily imagining yourself succeeding calmly and confidently. Stop treating mistakes as identity. Learn from errors instead of using them as proof that you cannot improve. Relax during challenges. Avoid overforcing results. Calm thinking improves decision-making and creativity. Focus on progress, not perfection. Small, consistent adjustments create long-term success. Reflective questions: what kind of goals am I programming into my subconscious mind every day? Do my thoughts help my success mechanism or sabotage it? What fears am I repeatedly feeding with attention? How would my behavior change if I trusted the learning process more? Am I allowing temporary setbacks to stop me from long-term growth? Imagination, the first key to your success mechanism. Most people think imagination is something useful only for artists, writers, filmmakers, or children. They see it as fantasy, entertainment, or escape from reality. But in this chapter of Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz presents a completely different perspective. He argues that imagination is one of the most powerful forces shaping human behavior, success, confidence, and even identity. According to him, the human nervous system often reacts to imagined experiences almost as strongly as it reacts to real ones. In other words, the pictures you repeatedly create in your mind can slowly become the blueprint for your future reality. Think about how fear works. Imagine someone walking alone at night who suddenly hears footsteps behind them. Their imagination immediately begins creating stories. What if someone is following me? What if I'm in danger? Within seconds, their heartbeat increases, muscles tighten, and anxiety rises. Even if there is no actual danger, the body responds to the imagined scenario as though it were real. This simple example reveals something important. Imagination influences emotions, behavior, and physical reactions constantly, whether we realize it or not. Maltz explains that the same power that creates fear can also create confidence, success, creativity, and transformation. The problem is that many people unknowingly use imagination against themselves. They constantly imagine failure before taking action. Before speaking in public, they picture embarrassment. Before applying for opportunities, they imagine rejection. Before starting a business, they imagine losing money and disappointing others. Over time, these repeated mental pictures condition the subconscious mind to expect failure, which affects behavior in real life. Imagine a student preparing for an important exam. One student repeatedly thinks, "I'm going to forget everything, I'll panic, and I always fail under pressure." During the exam, anxiety overwhelms them, concentration weakens, and simple questions suddenly feel difficult. Another student of equal intelligence visualizes themselves staying calm, remembering information clearly, and solving questions step by step. Their confidence helps them think more clearly and perform better. The difference often begins long before the exam itself. It begins in imagination. This chapter teaches that imagination is not separate from reality. It helps shape reality. Maltz uses the example of athletes and performers who mentally rehearse success before important events. Long before modern sports psychology became popular, successful athletes understood that the mind must be trained alongside the body. A professional basketball player may mentally rehearse making successful shots before stepping onto the court. A musician may imagine performing confidently before a concert. A public speaker may visualize connecting calmly with the audience before stepping onto the stage. These mental rehearsals prepare the nervous system for success. Interestingly, scientific studies later supported many of these ideas. Researchers found that mental practice alone could strengthen neural pathways connected to physical performance. In simple words, vividly imagining an action can train the brain similarly to physically performing it. Your mind does not always clearly separate imagined experiences from real experiences. This is why negative imagination can become extremely dangerous. A person who constantly imagines humiliation during social situations slowly trains themselves to fear people. Someone who repeatedly imagines failure in business may unconsciously avoid risks and opportunities. A person who imagines themselves as unattractive or unworthy begins behaving in ways that reinforce insecurity. The mind believes what it sees repeatedly. Think about someone learning to drive for the first time. In the beginning, they may imagine accidents constantly. Every small mistake feels terrifying. Their body becomes tense, hands shake, and panic increases. But after successful practice and repeated positive experiences, their imagination changes. Driving begins to feel natural instead of frightening. The external activity did not change much, but the internal mental picture changed dramatically. Maltz argues that human beings become what they imagine themselves to be over time. This does not mean simply daydreaming magically creates success. Imagination alone without action achieves nothing. However, imagination combined with belief and consistent action becomes powerful because it influences emotions, habits, confidence, and decision-making. One fascinating idea in this chapter is that imagination is often stronger than pure willpower. For example, imagine someone trying to walk across a narrow wooden plank placed on the ground. They would probably do it easily. But now imagine the same plank placed between two tall buildings high above the ground. Suddenly fear appears, even though the physical task remains identical. Why? Because imagination creates vivid mental pictures of falling and danger. The imagined consequences overpower logical reasoning. This example reveals why many people struggle to change habits or pursue goals. Deep inside, their imagination is filled with fear, embarrassment, rejection, or failure. Even if they consciously want success, their subconscious emotional imagery pushes them backward. Maltz encourages readers to consciously train imagination instead of allowing it to operate automatically. He explains that one of the best ways to do this is through creative visualization. This means deliberately imagining yourself behaving, thinking, and performing the way you desire. For example, if someone struggles with confidence in conversations, they can mentally rehearse social situations positively. They imagine smiling naturally, speaking calmly, and enjoying interactions. At first, this feels artificial because the old self-image resists change. But repeated mental rehearsal gradually creates familiarity. Eventually, the brain begins accepting confidence as normal instead of foreign. The same technique can apply to business, fitness, creativity, relationships, studies, or personal growth. A person trying to build discipline can imagine themselves completing tasks consistently. Someone trying to improve fitness can imagine becoming healthier and stronger. Someone recovering from failure can imagine themselves succeeding again instead of remaining trapped in old memories. This chapter also contains an important warning. Your imagination does not care whether you intentionally guide it or not. If left uncontrolled, it often drifts toward fear, insecurity, comparison, and worst-case scenarios. Modern life makes this even more dangerous because people constantly consume negative news, criticism, social comparison, and fear-driven content online. Over time, these images influence self-image and emotional state. That is why protecting your mental environment matters. The images, stories, conversations, and content you repeatedly consume become part of your inner world. Ask yourself honestly, what pictures dominate my imagination every day? Do I spend more time imagining success or failure? What would happen if I visualize my goals as vividly as I visualize my fears? Am I unconsciously training my mind for confidence or insecurity? If my imagination shapes my behavior, what kind of future am I mentally rehearsing right now? The deeper lesson of this chapter is powerful and practical. Human beings often live twice, first in imagination, then in reality. Every invention, achievement, business, relationship, skill, or transformation begins as a mental picture before becoming real. Your imagination can either become your greatest ally or your greatest enemy depending on how you use it. When directed consciously, it becomes the first key to unlocking your success mechanism. Main points key lessons imagination strongly influences emotions, behavior, and performance. The nervous system often reacts to imagined experiences as though they are real. Repeated negative imagination trains the mind toward fear and failure. Visualization can improve confidence and performance. Mental rehearsal is used by athletes, performers, and successful individuals. Imagination is often more powerful than willpower alone. Your subconscious mind responds to repeated mental pictures. Success often begins with seeing yourself succeed internally first. Actionable lessons you can apply. Practice daily visualization. Spend 5 to 10 minutes imagining yourself succeeding in situations where you usually feel fear or insecurity. Replace negative mental movies. When you catch yourself imagining failure, consciously create a better mental outcome. Use imagination before important events. Mentally rehearse interviews, conversations, presentations, or goals positively beforehand. Protect your mental environment. Reduce constant exposure to negative content that fuels fear and insecurity. Build confidence gradually. Repeated positive visualization combined with action slowly reshapes self-image. Focus on desired outcomes instead of worst-case scenarios. Your mind moves toward what you repeatedly picture. Reflective questions: what kind of future am I imagining for myself daily? Do my mental pictures create confidence or fear? What negative scenarios do I replay repeatedly in my mind? How would my life change if I consciously train my imagination? Am I mentally rehearsing success or failure more often? Dehypnotize yourself from false beliefs. One of the most dangerous things about the human mind is that it can slowly accept lies as truth without us even realizing it. In this powerful chapter of Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz explains that many people are living under a form of mental hypnosis created by past experiences, criticism, fear, failure, and repeated negative suggestions. These false beliefs become so deeply rooted that people stop questioning them. They begin treating limitations as permanent facts instead of temporary conditioning. Maltz compares this process to hypnosis because, under hypnosis, people can be convinced of things that are objectively false. A hypnotized person may believe they cannot lift a light object, forget their own name, or feel trapped by imaginary limitations simply because the suggestion feels real to them. In everyday life, people experience something similar psychologically. They carry invisible beliefs such as, I'm not attractive, I'm bad at speaking, I'm not smart enough, I always fail, I'm unlucky, people don't respect me, I could never become successful. These beliefs often sound like truth because they have been repeated internally for years. But Maltz argues that many of them are nothing more than psychological conditioning created by old experiences and emotional wounds. Imagine a child who struggles once while reading aloud in school and gets laughed at by classmates. That embarrassing moment may last only a few minutes, but emotionally it leaves a deep scar. The child may unconsciously form the belief, I'm bad at speaking in front of people. Years later, even as an adult, they still avoid presentations, public speaking, leadership opportunities, or social attention. Not because they are incapable, but because their mind accepted an old emotional experience as permanent truth. This is how false beliefs quietly control entire lives. Maltz explains that the subconscious mind learns through repetition and emotional intensity. If someone repeatedly hears criticism during childhood, those words slowly become internalized. A parent casually calling a child lazy, shy, or slow may unknowingly create an identity the child carries for decades. Eventually, the person stops hearing those words from others because they begin repeating them internally themselves. One of the most heartbreaking parts of human psychology is that people often underestimate their own abilities because of experiences that happened years ago. They continue living according to outdated mental programming even when their current potential is much greater. Think about how many adults still avoid certain opportunities because of old labels. Someone avoids starting a business because they failed once years ago. Someone avoids relationships because of one painful heartbreak. Someone avoids creative work because a teacher once criticized them. Someone avoids social situations because they were awkward as a teenager. The past becomes a prison when false beliefs go unquestioned. Maltz tells readers that these beliefs are not objective reality. They are interpretations created by the mind. Two people can experience the same failure and develop completely different conclusions. One person may think, I fail because I'm worthless. Another may think, I fail because I need more practice. The event is the same, but the interpretation changes the future. This chapter encourages readers to become detectives of their own minds. Instead of automatically believing every negative thought, Maltz asks people to examine where those beliefs came from. Are they actually true, or are they old emotional conclusions repeated so often they now feel real? For example, imagine someone who believes they are bad with people. If they honestly examine their life, they may discover moments where they actually connected well with others, made friends naturally, or had enjoyable conversations. The problem is that the mind often selectively focuses on embarrassing moments while ignoring positive evidence. Over time, the brain creates a distorted identity based on limited experiences. Maltz argues that one of the first steps toward freedom is realizing that feelings are not always facts. Just because you feel inadequate does not mean you actually are inadequate. Just because you feel incapable does not mean you truly lack ability. This realization can be life-changing. Imagine a talented musician who avoids sharing their work online because they fear criticism. Deep inside, they believe, people will think I'm not good enough. But where did that belief come from? Perhaps years ago someone mocked their creativity. Perhaps they compared themselves constantly to others. Perhaps they became emotionally conditioned to fear judgment. The fear feels real, but it is built on mental programming, not objective truth. The same thing happens in careers, studies, fitness, relationships, and confidence. People often stay trapped not because of external limitations, but because of internal beliefs they never challenge. Maltz also explains that human beings naturally seek consistency with their self-image. If someone secretly believes they are unworthy of success, they may unconsciously sabotage opportunities. They procrastinate, avoid risks, quit early, or settle for less than they deserve because success feels unfamiliar to their identity. Think about someone trying to lose weight who repeatedly says, I never stick to routines. Even when they begin making progress, that old belief eventually pulls them backward. But if they slowly begin changing their internal identity from I'm lazy to I'm becoming disciplined, their behavior starts changing too. The chapter teaches that changing beliefs requires repetition, emotional reinforcement, and new experiences. You cannot instantly erase years of conditioning overnight. However, you can begin weakening false beliefs by consciously replacing them with healthier ones and collecting evidence that supports growth. For example, a shy person can slowly prove to themselves that they are capable of social interaction through small conversations. A person afraid of failure can take small risks and survive setbacks. Someone insecure about intelligence can learn new skills step by step and challenge a belief that they are incapable. Each positive experience becomes evidence against old mental hypnosis. Maltz emphasizes that you do not need to become perfect before believing in yourself. Confidence grows through action, experimentation, and repeated correction of false beliefs. This chapter also warns against constantly accepting negative suggestions from society, media, family members, or toxic environments. Many people absorb limitation from others without realizing it. If someone repeatedly hears messages that success is impossible, dreams are unrealistic, or failure defines identity, those ideas slowly shape self-image. That is why protecting your mental environment matters so much. The voices you repeatedly listen to eventually become your own inner voice. Ask yourself honestly, what beliefs about myself have I accepted without questioning? Who or what originally taught me those beliefs? Am I living according to my actual abilities or according to old emotional conditioning? What opportunities have I avoided because of fear-based identity? What could become possible if I stopped treating past failures as permanent definitions of who I am? The deeper message of this chapter is both unsettling and empowering. Many people are trapped not by reality, but by invisible mental hypnosis created by false beliefs. The moment you begin questioning those beliefs instead of automatically obeying them, you start reclaiming control over your identity, behavior, and future. Freedom begins when you realize that many of the limits you accepted were never truly permanent in the first place. Main points key lessons. Many personal limitations are based on false beliefs, not objective reality. Negative experiences and criticism can create harmful self-images. The subconscious mind accepts repeated emotional suggestions as truth. Feelings are not always facts. People often live according to old conditioning from childhood or past failures. False beliefs influence behavior, confidence, and opportunities. Growth begins when you question limiting beliefs instead of automatically accepting them. Small positive experiences can gradually reprogram self-image. Actionable lessons you can apply. Identify your limiting beliefs. Write down recurring negative thoughts about yourself and examine where they came from. Question old mental labels. Ask whether those beliefs are actually facts or simply emotional conclusions from past experiences. Collect evidence against false beliefs. Notice moments where you succeeded, improved, or handled situations better than expected. Replace destructive self-talk. Change statements like, I always fail into I am learning and improving. Take small corrective actions. Build confidence gradually through small risks and repeated positive experiences. Protect your mental environment. Reduce exposure to people and content that constantly reinforce fear and limitation. Reflective questions. What negative beliefs have been controlling my decisions? Are those beliefs based on reality or past emotional experiences? What opportunities have I avoided because of fear-based identity? How would my life change if I stopped defining myself by old failures? What new belief about myself do I need to start strengthening today? How to utilize the power of rational thinking. Have you ever noticed how a single negative thought can completely change your mood, confidence, and behavior within minutes? One moment everything feels normal, and the next moment your mind convinces you that you are failing, embarrassing yourself, or heading toward disaster. In this chapter of Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz explains that one of the greatest abilities human beings possess is the power of rational thinking, the ability to step back from emotional reactions, examine thoughts logically, and separate fact from exaggerated phase. According to Maltz, many people suffer not because reality is terrible, but because their thinking has become distorted by fear, insecurity, emotional conditioning, and automatic negative assumptions. The human mind is incredibly powerful, but it is not always accurate. Thoughts can feel real without actually being true. A person may assume others secretly dislike them, believe one mistake ruined everything, or imagine failure before anything bad has even happened. These mental reactions often occur automatically, especially when self-image is weak or anxiety is high. Maltz argues that rational thinking acts like a mental filter that protects you from becoming emotionally controlled by every fearful thought that enters your mind. Imagine someone sending an important message to a friend or colleague and not receiving a reply for several hours. Immediately, the mind may start creating stories. Maybe they're upset with me. Maybe I said something wrong. They're ignoring me. Anxiety builds, emotions intensify, and the person begins suffering over a situation that may have nothing to do with reality. Later, they discover the other person was simply busy or asleep. This small example reveals how irrational thinking can create emotional pain out of imagination rather than facts. Maltz explains that emotionally unhealthy thinking often exaggerates problems, predicts disasters, and personalizes situations unnecessarily. Rational thinking interrupts this cycle by asking calm, objective questions. What evidence supports this theory? Am I reacting to facts or assumptions? Is the situation really as terrible as my emotions are making it seem? What is the most logical interpretation here? This process may sound simple, but it can completely change the way a person experiences life. One of the most important ideas in this chapter is that emotions often follow thoughts. If your thoughts are constantly catastrophic, fearful, and self-critical, your emotional state eventually reflects those patterns. But when your thinking becomes calmer, more balanced, and more realistic, emotional stability improves as well. Consider a student who performs poorly on one exam. An irrational reaction might sound like, I'm stupid. My future is ruined. I'll never succeed. These thoughts create hopelessness and emotional paralysis. But rational thinking produces a completely different response. I performed poorly this time. I may need better preparation methods. One bad result does not define my intelligence or future. Notice how the second perspective creates room for growth instead of emotional collapse. Maltz believed that many people unknowingly hypnotize themselves with irrational beliefs because they rarely stop to examine their thoughts objectively. They accept every negative assumption as truth. Over time, this damages self-confidence and reinforces unhealthy self-image. This becomes especially dangerous in social situations. Imagine someone entering a room full of people while secretly believing, "Everyone is judging me." Because of this assumption, they become tense, awkward, and overly self-conscious. Ironically, their nervous behavior may create uncomfortable interactions, which they then interpret as proof their fear was correct. But the problem did not begin with reality. It began with irrational interpretation. Now imagine the same situation approached rationally. Most people are probably focused on themselves. One awkward moment does not define me. I don't need everyone's approval to have value. This mindset creates calmness and allows more natural behavior. Rational thinking does not mean ignoring emotions or pretending problems do not exist. It means refusing to let emotion completely distort perception. Fear can sometimes exaggerate danger. Insecurity can sometimes exaggerate rejection. Anxiety can sometimes exaggerate uncertainty. Rational thinking helps restore perspective. Maltz also discusses how many people waste enormous mental energy worrying about situations they cannot control. They replay conversations endlessly, predict worst-case scenarios, and mentally fight imaginary future problems. The tragedy is that most of these fears never actually happen, yet the body and nervous system suffer as though the danger were real. Think about how often people lose sleep over possibilities rather than realities. What if I fail? What if they reject me? What if things go wrong? What if I embarrass myself? These thoughts create tension, stress, and exhaustion long before any real problem occurs. Maltz encourages readers to focus energy on constructive action instead of endless emotional speculation. Rational thinking asks, what practical step can I take right now? Instead of drowning in fear, the mind becomes solution-oriented. For example, someone anxious about finances may spend months worrying constantly without taking action. Irrational thinking says, I'm doomed. There's no way out. But rational thinking asks, what skills can I improve? What expenses can I reduce? What opportunities can I explore? The situation may still be difficult, but rational thinking creates movement instead of paralysis. This chapter also emphasizes that perfectionism is often irrational. Many people unconsciously believe they must never fail, never look foolish, and never make mistakes. As a result, they avoid challenges entirely. But rational thinking recognizes that mistakes are normal parts of growth. Imagine a person learning a new language who becomes embarrassed every time they pronounce something incorrectly. If they interpret mistakes as humiliation, they may quit quickly. But rational thinking reframes the experience. Every expert was once a beginner. Mistakes are evidence of learning, not failure. This shift removes unnecessary emotional pressure. Maltz believed rational thinking strengthens emotional resilience because it prevents temporary emotion from becoming permanent conclusions. A bad day does not mean a bad life. Rejection from one person does not mean universal rejection. Failure in one situation does not mean permanent incompetence. One of the most practical lessons from this chapter is learning to pause before reacting emotionally. Most emotional suffering grows stronger because people instantly believe and react to every fearful thought. But when you pause and analyze situations rationally, emotional intensity often decreases naturally. Ask yourself, am I reacting to facts or assumptions? What evidence actually supports this theory? Would I speak to another person the same way I speak to myself? Am I turning one temporary problem into a permanent identity? What practical action would improve the situation instead of simply worrying about it? These questions create psychological distance from emotional chaos. This chapter ultimately teaches that the quality of your thinking shapes the quality of your emotional life. Rational thinking does not eliminate all problems, but it prevents unnecessary suffering caused by distorted interpretation. When you stop automatically believing every fearful thought, you gain greater control over your reactions, decisions, confidence, and peace of mind. The deeper message is incredibly empowering. Your mind can either become a prison filled with irrational fear or a tool guided by reason, perspective, and constructive thinking. Learning to think rationally allows you to respond to life more calmly, make better decisions, and protect yourself from the emotional traps created by exaggerated fear and negative assumptions. Main points key lessons thoughts are not always facts. Irrational thinking often exaggerates fear, failure, and rejection. Emotions frequently follow thought patterns. Rational thinking helps separate reality from assumptions. Many people suffer more from imagined problems than real ones. Negative self-talk damages confidence and self-image. Calm analysis reduces emotional overreaction. Constructive action is more powerful than endless worrying. Actionable lessons you can apply. Pause before reacting. Emotionally, give yourself time to examine situations logically instead of instantly assuming the worst. Question fearful thoughts. Ask whether your fear is based on evidence or imagination. Replace catastrophic thinking. Avoid turning temporary problems into permanent conclusions about yourself. Focus on practical solutions. Ask, what action can I take right now? Instead of endlessly worrying, challenge perfectionism. Accept mistakes as part of growth and learning. Monitor your self-talk. Speak to yourself with the same fairness and logic you would offer another person. Reflective questions. What irrational fears repeatedly control my emotions? Am I reacting to reality or imagined scenarios? How often do I assume the worst without evidence? What practical action could improve the situations I worry about most? How would my life change if I stopped believing every negative thought automatically? Relax and let your success mechanism work for you. One of the strangest truths about human performance is that people often perform worse when they try too hard. The harder they force, panic, over-control, and obsess over results, the more mistakes they make. In this chapter of Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz explains that success is not created only through effort and struggle. It also depends on relaxation, trust, and allowing your subconscious success mechanism to work naturally. According to Maltz, many people unknowingly sabotage themselves because they live in a constant state of tension, fear, and overthinking. Think about moments in life when you perform naturally without excessive pressure. Maybe you were having a casual conversation and suddenly became funny, confident, and expressive without even trying. Maybe you solved a difficult problem only after you stopped obsessing over it. Maybe you played a game better when relaxed compared to when you became desperate to win. These experiences reveal something important. The subconscious mind often works best when the conscious mind stops interfering constantly. Maltz compares a human success mechanism to automatic systems that function efficiently when trusted properly. For example, when learning to ride a bicycle for the first time, people often become stiff and fearful. They overthink every movement, panic about falling, and tighten their body. Ironically, this excessive tension makes balancing even harder. But once relaxation develops, balance begins feeling natural. The body starts responding automatically without conscious overcontrol. The same principle applies to almost every area of life. Imagine a public speaker standing backstage before an important presentation. One speaker keeps thinking, what if I mess up? What if people judge me? I must perform perfectly. The pressure creates tension. Their breathing becomes shallow, memory weakens, and their speech sounds unnatural. They become trapped inside self-consciousness. Now imagine another speaker who prepared properly but allows himself to relax before stepping on stage. Instead of obsessing over perfection, they focus on communicating naturally. They trust their preparation and accept that small mistakes are normal. Because they are calmer, their mind functions more clearly, creativity flows naturally, and their personality feels authentic. The difference is not always intelligence or talent. Often, it is tension versus relaxation. Maltz argues that many people are mentally exhausted because they never truly relax psychologically. Even during rest, their mind continue replaying fears, regrets, comparisons, and future worries. Their nervous system remains stuck in constant stress mode. Over time, this emotional tension damages performance, creativity, confidence, relationships, and even physical health. One of the most important ideas in this chapter is that excessive self-consciousness interferes with natural ability. Think about athletes during high-pressure moments. Sometimes a player who normally performs brilliantly suddenly struggles during an important game because they become overly focused on not making mistakes. They stop trusting instinct and begin consciously controlling movements that normally happen naturally. This often leads to poorer performance. The same thing happens socially. A person who constantly monitors every word they say, every facial expression, and every possible judgment from others becomes awkward because they are trapped inside their own head. Meanwhile, relaxed people often appear more confident because they are focused outward rather than obsessively analyzing themselves. Maltz explains that human beings function best when they combine preparation with trust. Preparation matters, but after preparation comes surrender. Once you have studied, practiced, planned, or trained, constantly worrying no longer improves performance. In fact, it often weakens it. Imagine a student preparing for exams. One student studies consistently but spends the night before the exam panicking, imagining failure, and losing sleep. Another student studies with similar effort, but allows themselves to rest calmly before the test. The second student often performs better because their nervous system remains balanced. This chapter teaches that tension narrows mental functioning while relaxation expands it. Under extreme stress, people struggle to think creatively, remember clearly, or make wise decisions. Relaxation allows the subconscious mind to operate efficiently. Think about how many brilliant ideas appear while showering, walking, resting, or drifting to sleep. Often solutions arrive only after the conscious mind stops forcing them. Maltz believed the subconscious mind continues processing problems in the background even when we are not actively thinking about them. This does not mean becoming lazy or passive. Maltz is not encouraging people to avoid effort. Instead, he warns against destructive tension and over-control. Healthy effort feels focused and productive. Unhealthy effort feels desperate, fearful, and exhausting. One powerful example of this principle can be seen in sleep itself. Have you ever tried desperately to fall asleep? The harder you fall asleep, the more awake you become. Sleep arrives naturally only when tension decreases. In a similar way, confidence, creativity, and effective performance often emerge more naturally when the mind is calm rather than frantic. Maltz also explains that many people become addicted to worry because they mistakenly believe constant tension equals responsibility. They think relaxing means becoming careless. But chronic worry rarely improves outcomes. It mostly drains emotional energy and damages peace of mind. Imagine someone building a business who constantly worries every minute of the day. What if everything fails? What if people criticize me? What if I lose money? Their stress may become so overwhelming that they stop making clear decisions altogether. Meanwhile, another person faces the same challenges but approaches them with calmer thinking. They focus on solving problems step by step rather than emotionally collapsing under pressure. The second person's relaxed mindset allows better judgment and resilience. This chapter also introduces the idea of mental rest. Just as muscles need recovery after exercise, the mind also needs periods of relaxation. Many people constantly consume stimulation, news, social media, comparison, stress, notifications, entertainment, without giving their nervous system true recovery. Over time, mental fatigue increases anxiety and weakens focus. Maltz encourages readers to create moments of calm intentionally. Silence, reflection, deep breathing, walks, prayer, meditation, creative hobbies, or simply disconnecting from constant stimulation can help restore psychological balance. Another key lesson in this chapter is learning to trust gradual progress. Many people become impatient and emotionally overwhelmed because they expect immediate perfection. They pressure themselves constantly instead of understanding that growth happens step by step. A relaxed mind accepts learning curves more easily. Imagine someone trying to improve fitness. If they obsess over instant results, they quickly become discouraged. But if they focus calmly on consistent habits, daily walks, healthier eating, regular exercise, progress becomes sustainable. Relaxation helps maintain long-term consistency. This chapter asks readers to examine how much unnecessary tension they carry daily. Are you constantly mentally rehearsing disasters? Do you believe you must control everything perfectly? Do you treat every mistake like a catastrophe? Do you allow yourself moments of true mental rest? What would happen if you trusted yourself more and feared failure less? The deeper message behind this chapter is powerful because it challenges a modern obsession with non-stop pressure and anxiety. Maltz reminds readers that human beings are not machines designed for constant fear and overstrain. Your success mechanism functions best when your mind is calm, balanced, and focused rather than consumed by panic and self-consciousness. Sometimes the greatest improvement comes not from forcing harder, but from relaxing enough to allow your natural abilities, preparation, and subconscious intelligence to work for you instead of against you. Main points: key lessons. Excessive tension and overthinking often damage performance. The subconscious success mechanism works best when trusted calmly. Relaxation improves creativity, memory, confidence, and decision-making. Over-control and self-consciousness interfere with natural ability. Worry rarely improves outcomes and often drains energy. Preparation is important, but constant fear after preparation is harmful. Mental rest is necessary for emotional and psychological balance. Growth works better through steady consistency than desperate pressure. Actionable lessons you can apply. Practice relaxing before important situations. Take deep breaths, slow your thoughts, and trust your preparation. Stop over-monitoring yourself constantly. Focus outward instead of obsessively analyzing every action. Create daily mental recovery time. Spend time away from stress, social media, and constant stimulation. Replace panic with step-by-step thinking. Focus on the next practical action instead of imagining disasters. Trust gradual improvement. Progress becomes sustainable when you stop demanding instant perfection. Notice when worry becomes unproductive. Ask yourself whether your stress is solving problems or simply exhausting you. Reflective questions: how much unnecessary tension do I carry every day? Do I trust myself, or do I constantly over-control everything? When was the last time I truly relaxed mentally? Am I allowing fear of mistakes to damage my natural abilities? What would improve in my life if I became calmer and more trusting of the process? You can acquire the habit of happiness. Most people spend their entire lives chasing happiness as though it is something waiting somewhere in the future. They believe happiness will finally arrive when they earn more money, become more attractive, achieve success, enter the perfect relationship, or gain approval from others. But in this chapter of Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz presents a surprising and deeply important idea. Happiness is not merely the result of external conditions. Happiness is also a habit, a mental attitude and emotional pattern that can be practiced, strengthened, and developed over time. This idea may sound strange at first because many people think happiness is completely controlled by circumstances. But Maltz argues that two people can experience similar situations and react entirely differently depending on their mental habits. One person constantly focuses on problems, criticism, disappointments, and fear. Another notices opportunities, gratitude, growth, and moments of meaning even during difficult times. Their external lives may not be dramatically different, but their internal experience feels completely different. Think about people you may have met in real life. Some individuals seem permanently dissatisfied no matter what they achieve. They complain constantly, compare themselves endlessly, and move from one goal to another without ever feeling fulfilled. Even when good things happen, they quickly return to anxiety or negativity. Meanwhile, other people remain emotionally balanced and hopeful despite facing serious challenges. The difference often comes down to mental conditioning and emotional habits. Maltz explains that human beings gradually train themselves into emotional patterns through repetition. Just as someone can develop the habit of worrying, complaining, or expecting disappointment, they can also develop the habit of appreciation, optimism, calmness, and happiness. The mind learns through repetition. Whatever emotional state you repeatedly practice becomes more automatic over time. Imagine someone who wakes up every morning and immediately starts thinking about stress. I'm already tired. Today is going to be terrible. My life never improves. Without realizing it, they are mentally rehearsing negativity every single day. Their brain becomes conditioned to search for problems because that emotional pattern feels familiar. Now imagine another person who begins a day differently. They still have challenges, responsibilities, and stress, but they consciously direct attention toward constructive thoughts. What opportunities do I have today? What am I grateful for? What can I improve step by step? This does not magically eliminate problems, but it changes the emotional atmosphere of their mind. One of the most powerful lessons in this chapter is that happiness does not mean constant pleasure or pretending life is perfect. Maltz is not suggesting people ignore pain, sadness, or struggle. Instead, he argues that many people unnecessarily strengthen suffering by constantly mentally replaying negativity. They relive old embarrassments, hold on to resentment, compare themselves endlessly, and mentally predict future disasters. Over time, these habits create chronic unhappiness. Think about how often people revisit painful moments in their minds. A person may replay an embarrassing conversation from years ago as though it happened yesterday. Another person may repeatedly think about someone who hurt them long ago. Even though the event is over, the emotional suffering continues because the mind keeps feeding it attention. Maltz believed that one of the keys to happiness is learning to stop emotionally living inside past wounds. This does not mean forgetting painful experiences completely, but it means refusing to let them dominate your identity and emotional life forever. Consider someone who experienced failure in business. One person spends years defining themselves by that failure. I ruined everything. I'm not capable. My life is over. Their identity becomes connected to defeat. Another person experiences the same failure, but responds differently. That experience hurt, but it taught me valuable lessons. I can recover and improve. One setback does not define my entire future. The second person suffers too, but they do not permanently build a home inside suffering. This chapter also emphasizes the importance of present moment living. Many people destroy current happiness because their minds constantly live somewhere else, regretting the past or fearing the future. They become unable to enjoy ordinary moments because anxiety and dissatisfaction dominate their attention. Imagine a family sitting together at dinner while one person remains mentally trapped inside work stress, social comparison, or future worries. Physically, they are present, but psychologically, they are absent. Maltz encourages readers to reconnect with the present instead of allowing endless mental noise to steal life's simple experiences. Another fascinating point in this chapter is that happiness and self-image are deeply connected. People who secretly believe they do not deserve happiness often unconsciously reject positive experiences. They may sabotage relationships, dismiss compliments, or constantly search for flaws because emotional struggle feels more familiar than peace. This is why learning happiness sometimes feels uncomfortable at first. A person used to negativity may almost feel guilty relaxing or enjoying life. Their nervous system has become conditioned to tension and worry. Maltz explains that happiness, like any other habit, requires conscious practice until it becomes more natural. One practical way to strengthen this habit is through gratitude. Gratitude shifts attention away from constant deficiency and toward appreciation. The human brain naturally focuses heavily on problems because survival instincts prioritize danger. But if people never intentionally notice good experiences, their minds become trapped in chronic dissatisfaction. Imagine two individuals with similar lives. One constantly notices only what is missing. I don't have enough money. My life isn't exciting enough. I'm behind compared to others. The other notices both challenges and blessings. I still have opportunities. I've learned important lessons. There are people and experiences worth appreciating. The second person is not denying difficulty. They are simply training attention differently. Maltz also discusses how excessive self-focus contributes to unhappiness. People who constantly monitor themselves, seek approval obsessively, or compare themselves to others often become trapped in insecurity. Happiness grows more naturally when attention shifts outward toward meaningful action, relationships, creativity, contribution, and growth. Think about moments when you became deeply absorbed in something enjoyable, playing music, exercising, helping someone, building a project, or having a meaningful conversation. During those moments, happiness often appears naturally because self-consciousness temporarily disappears. This chapter teaches that happiness is not something passively discovered. It is something actively cultivated through mental habits, perspective, emotional discipline, and daily choices. Ask yourself honestly, what emotional habits am I practicing every day? Do I spend more time appreciating life or complaining about it? Am I mentally living in the past, future, or present? What resentment or old emotional wounds am I still carrying? Do I believe happiness is something I deserve or something always out of reach? Maltz ultimately reminds readers that the human mind becomes what it repeatedly practices. If you repeatedly practice negativity, resentment, worry, and self-pity, unhappiness becomes familiar. But if you repeatedly practice gratitude, calmness, optimism, forgiveness, and meaningful engagement with life, happiness gradually becomes more natural. The deeper message of this chapter is incredibly hopeful. Happiness is not reserved only for lucky people with perfect lives. It is a skill and habit that can be strengthened little by little through the way you think, focus, interpret experiences, and respond to life daily. Even small shifts in mental habits can slowly transform the emotional quality of your entire life. Main Point's Key Lessons Happiness is not only based on circumstances, it is also a mental habit. The mind becomes conditioned to repeated emotional patterns. Constant negativity strengthens unhappiness over time. Gratitude and positive focus improve emotional well-being. Living mentally in the past or future often destroys present happiness. That self-image influences whether people allow themselves to feel happy. Excessive self-focus and comparison increase dissatisfaction. Happiness grows through daily mental and emotional practice. Actionable lessons you can apply. Monitor your daily thought patterns. Notice whether your mind constantly focuses on problems or possibilities. Practice gratitude regularly. Spend a few minutes daily appreciating things that are already good in your life. Stop replaying painful memories endlessly. Learn from the past without emotionally living inside it forever. Be present during ordinary moments. Give full attention to conversations, relationships, and daily experiences. Reduce unhealthy comparison. Focus more on personal growth and measuring yourself against others constantly. Create positive emotional habits. Practice calmness, optimism, forgiveness, and appreciation consistently. Reflective questions: what emotional habits dominate my daily life? Do I unconsciously practice unhappiness through constant worry or negativity? What positive experiences do I overlook regularly? Am I allowing old emotional pain to control my present happiness? What small daily habits could make my mind healthier and more peaceful over time? Ingredients of the success-type personality. Why do some people naturally seem confident, calm under pressure, socially comfortable, and capable of moving toward their goals, while others constantly feel stuck, insecure, fearful, or defeated even when they have talent and opportunity? In this important chapter of Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz explains that successful people are not necessarily born with magical abilities or extraordinary luck. Instead, they often develop certain mental and emotional characteristics that support healthy action, resilience, and growth. Maltz calls this the success-type personality. One of the most powerful ideas in this chapter is that personality is not completely fixed. Many people mistakenly believe they are permanently shy, weak, unlucky, anxious, or incapable because that has been their experience for years. But Maltz argues that personality is heavily influenced by self-image, mental habits, emotional conditioning, and repeated behavior patterns. In other words, the traits associated with successful people can gradually be learned and strengthened. Maltz introduces several important qualities that form the foundation of a healthy, success-oriented personality. These qualities are not about becoming arrogant, fake, or emotionally perfect. They are about developing internal habits that allow people to function more effectively in life. The first ingredient is a sense of direction. Human beings function better when they have meaningful goals and clear direction. Imagine a ship floating in the ocean without a destination. It drifts wherever the wind pushes it. Many people live the same way emotionally. They react to circumstances, social pressure, fear, and temporary emotions without having a clear sense of purpose. As a result, they often feel lost, unmotivated, or stuck. Now imagine someone with a meaningful goal. It does not need to be huge or dramatic. It could be improving health, building confidence, learning skills, creating content, strengthening relationships, or becoming financially stable. The moment direction appears, energy changes. The mind begins organizing itself around movement instead of confusion. Maltz explains that goals activate the success mechanism inside the brain. People become more motivated and resilient when they feel they are moving towards something meaningful instead of merely trying to survive each day. The second ingredient is understanding. Successful personalities are not controlled entirely by emotion. They seek understanding instead of reacting impulsively to every problem. For example, when facing criticism, a failure-type personality may instantly collapse emotionally. I'm worthless. I'll never succeed. But a success-type personality asks, what can I learn from this? Is this criticism useful or simply emotional? How can I improve without destroying my self-worth? This ability to think constructively creates emotional stability. Think about two business owners facing setbacks. One panics, blames themselves endlessly, and gives up, The other experiences disappointment too, but analyzes the situation rationally, adjusts strategies, and continues forward. The second person is not emotionally immune to pain, but they refuse to let temporary failure define their identity. Another key ingredient Maltz discusses is courage. Courage does not mean absence of fear. It means acting despite fear. Many people wait endlessly to feel ready before taking action. They think confident people never feel nervous or uncertain. But in reality, successful individuals often experience fear too. The difference is that they do not allow fear to become permanent paralysis. Imagine someone wanting to start a YouTube channel but delaying for years because they fear judgment. Every day they imagine criticism, embarrassment, and failure. Meanwhile, another person with similar fears uploads imperfect videos anyway, learns gradually, improves over time, and eventually builds confidence through action. Courage grows through movement, not waiting. Maltz believed that avoidance strengthens fear while action weakens it. Every time people avoid situations because of fear, they unintentionally teach the subconscious mind that the situation is dangerous. But when they face challenges gradually, confidence begins increasing naturally. The chapter also highlights compassion and connection with others as important ingredients of healthy personality. Many people become deeply unhappy because they are excessively self-focused. They constantly worry about how they appear, whether others approve of them, or how they compare socially. This excessive self-consciousness creates anxiety and insecurity. Successful personalities shift attention outward. They become interested in other people instead of obsessively monitoring themselves. Think about socially confident individuals. Often they are not constantly trying to impress others. They are engaged, curious, relaxed, and attentive. Their confidence grows because they are not trapped inside endless self-analysis. Imagine attending a social event while constantly thinking, "Do I sound awkward? What do people think about me? Am I embarrassing myself?" This mindset creates tension immediately. Now imagine entering the same room thinking, "How can I enjoy conversations? What can I learn about people here? How can I make others comfortable?" The emotional experience changes dramatically because focus shifts outward. Another important ingredient Maltz discusses is self-acceptance. Many people secretly reject themselves constantly. They believe they must become perfect before deserving confidence, happiness, or respect. As a result, they live in endless self-criticism. But healthy personalities understand that growth and imperfection can exist together. Self-acceptance does not mean refusing improvement. It means refusing to hate yourself while improving. Think about someone trying to lose weight or build discipline. A failure-type personality constantly insults themselves. "I'm lazy. I never change." This creates discouragement and emotional exhaustion. A success-type personality approaches improvement differently. "I may not be where I want to be yet, but I am capable of growth." This mindset creates persistence instead of self-destruction. Maltz also emphasizes the importance of realistic thinking. Successful personalities do not expect life to become perfect. They understand setbacks, criticism, delays, and discomfort are normal parts of existence. Because of this, they recover faster from disappointments. Failure does not shock them emotionally because they do not interpret temporary struggle as proof they are doomed. One fascinating lesson in this chapter is that many personality traits become stronger through repeated action. Confidence grows by practicing courage. Social skill improves through interaction. Discipline develops through consistency. Emotional resilience strengthens through facing challenges gradually. This means people do not need to wait for transformation before acting. Action itself helps create transformation. Maltz warns readers against building identity around weakness and limitation. Some people unconsciously become attached to being the anxious person, the shy person, or the unlucky person. Over time, these labels shape behavior. But personality is more flexible than most people realize. Imagine a quiet student who believes they are socially incapable. Because of that identity, they avoid conversations, leadership roles, and opportunities. Years later, they still feel trapped. But if they slowly challenge that identity through small social experiences, their personality begins evolving. The old identity weakens because new evidence appears. This chapter encourages readers to stop treating personality as a prison and start treating it as something that can be developed intentionally. Ask yourself honestly, what type of personality traits am I strengthening daily? Am I practicing courage or avoidance? Do I focus more on growth or self-criticism? Am I moving toward meaningful goals or drifting emotionally through life? What labels about myself have I accepted as permanent? What kind of person could I become if I consistently practice healthier mental habits? The deeper message of this chapter is deeply empowering. Successful personalities are not magically created at birth. They are gradually shaped through goals, mindset, emotional habits, courage, self-acceptance, rational thinking, and repeated behavior. The person you repeatedly practice becoming eventually starts feeling natural. In many ways, personality is not only something you have, it is something you continuously create. Main points key lessons personality is shaped by self-image and repeated mental habits. Success-oriented traits can be developed over time. Clear goals give direction and activate motivation. Courage means acting despite fear, not avoiding fear completely. Excessive self-focus creates insecurity and anxiety. Self-acceptance improves growth and emotional resilience. Realistic thinking helps people recover from setbacks faster. Action gradually reshapes identity and confidence. Actionable lessons you can apply. Set meaningful goals. Give your mind direction instead of drifting emotionally through life. Practice courage in small ways. Face fears gradually instead of avoiding them completely. Shift focus outward. Become more interested in others instead of constantly analyzing yourself. Replace harsh self-criticism with constructive thinking. Encourage growth without emotionally attacking yourself. Build confidence through repeated action. Confidence develops through experience, not endless preparation. Stop identifying with weakness permanently. Treat personality as flexible and capable of growth. Reflective questions: what personality traits am I strengthening every day? Do my habits move me toward growth or limitation? What fears am I allowing to control my behavior? Am I defining myself by past experiences or future possibilities? What kind of person would I become if I consistently practice healthier mental habits? The failure mechanism: how to make it work for you instead of against you. One of the most surprising ideas in Psycho-Cybernetics is that human beings possess not only a success mechanism, but also a failure mechanism. According to Maxwell Maltz, the mind naturally tries to protect us from danger, embarrassment, rejection, pain, and uncertainty. In small amounts, this protective system is useful. Fear can stop someone from making reckless decisions. Caution can prevent harmful mistakes. But the problem begins when this failure mechanism becomes overactive and starts controlling everyday life. Instead of protecting people, it begins trapping them. Maltz explains that many people unknowingly live under the influence of this internal failure system. They constantly expect rejection, predict disaster, overanalyze mistakes, compare themselves to others, and avoid situations that could lead to growth. Over time, these habits create a self-fulfilling cycle where fear of failure actually produces more failure. Imagine someone who desperately wants to improve their career but never applies for better opportunities because they secretly believe, "I'm probably not qualified. They'll reject me. I'll embarrass myself." As a result, they remain stuck in the same place for years. Ironically, the failure mechanism that was trying to protect them from rejection ends up protecting them from growth, opportunity, and success as well. This chapter reveals a painful truth about human psychology. Many people suffer more from avoiding failure than from failure itself. Think about a talented musician who never shares their music publicly because they fear criticism, or a student who avoids answering questions in class because they fear looking foolish. Or someone who wants meaningful relationships but avoids emotional vulnerability because they fear rejection. In every case, the person believes avoidance keeps them safe. But over time, avoidance slowly shrinks confidence, freedom, and self-respect. Maltz believed that one of the biggest differences between successful and unsuccessful people is not the absence of failure. It is their interpretation of failure. Failure-type personalities often treat mistakes as proof of personal worthlessness. "I failed, therefore I am a failure." This identity-based thinking creates emotional paralysis. Success-type personalities approach failure differently. "I failed this attempt, but failure is information." They use mistakes as feedback rather than permanent identity. This distinction changes everything. Imagine a child learning to walk. They fall repeatedly, but they never conclude, "Walking just isn't for me." They instinctively understand that mistakes are part of learning. Adults, however, often lose this mindset. One rejection, one embarrassment, or one failed attempt becomes emotionally magnified into permanent self-doubt. Maltz argues that the failure mechanism becomes destructive when fear starts controlling behavior more than purpose or growth. The mind begins avoiding discomfort at all costs, even when discomfort is necessary for improvement. Think about social anxiety. A person may avoid conversations because awkwardness feels painful. Initially, avoidance brings temporary relief. But over time, social fear grows stronger because the subconscious mind learns, if I keep avoiding this, it must truly be dangerous. Eventually, even simple interactions feel overwhelming. The same thing happens in careers, creativity, fitness, relationships, and personal development. Avoidance strengthens fear while action weakens it. This chapter also explores how excessive self-consciousness feeds a failure mechanism. Many people become trapped inside their own heads, constantly monitoring themselves. How do I look? What if people judge me? What if I say something wrong? This obsessive self-monitoring creates tension and unnatural behavior. Ironically, the more people fear mistakes, the more mistakes they often make. Think about someone walking normally across a room. They do it naturally without thinking, but suddenly imagine everyone staring at them critically. Now they become hyper-aware of every movement and may even stumble awkwardly. Their natural ability became disrupted because self-consciousness interfered with automatic functioning. Maltz explains that this happens because fear narrows mental functioning. Under pressure, people stop trusting instinct and become emotionally rigid. Athletes experience this during choking moments in sports. A basketball player who normally shoots effortlessly suddenly misses repeatedly because fear of failure takes control of attention. The chapter teaches that failure itself is not the real enemy. Mismanaging failure emotionally is the real danger. Many inventions, businesses, skills, and achievements were built through repeated mistakes. Imagine if inventors, athletes, writers, or entrepreneurs interpreted every setback as proof they should quit. Most success stories would never exist. Failure is often part of the correction process that helps people improve direction. Maltz compares this process to a guided missile adjusting course toward a target. A missile does not move perfectly in a straight line. It constantly detects errors and corrects itself. Human beings grow similarly. Mistakes provide information about what needs adjustment. But many people emotionally collapse every time life deviates from perfection. Imagine someone trying to lose weight who breaks their diet one day and immediately thinks, I ruined everything. This emotional overreaction often causes them to give up entirely. Meanwhile, another person views a setback rationally. I made a mistake today. I'll continue tomorrow. The second mindset creates long-term consistency. One of the most dangerous aspects of the failure mechanism is comparison. Modern life constantly encourages people to compare their appearance, success, relationships, money, and achievement against others. This often creates feelings of inadequacy and discouragement. A young creator may see someone else growing fast online and immediately think, I'm not talented enough. I'll never succeed. Instead of focusing on learning and improvement, they become emotionally trapped inside comparison. Maltz warns that the failure mechanism thrives when people define themselves by external approval. If self-worth depends entirely on praise, popularity, or perfection, emotional stability becomes fragile. Confidence rises and falls based on other people's reactions. This chapter encourages readers to build internal stability instead of constantly seeking validation. Maltz also emphasizes forgiveness as an important way to weaken the failure mechanism. Many people secretly carry guilt, regret, embarrassment, or resentment for years. They mentally punish themselves repeatedly for old mistakes. This emotional burden damages self-image and reinforces feelings of unworthiness. Imagine someone who made poor decisions years ago but still internally defines themselves by those mistakes. Even when opportunities appear, they unconsciously sabotage progress because deep down they believe they do not deserve success or happiness. Learning from mistakes is healthy. Living inside mistakes permanently is destructive. This chapter encourages people to stop treating temporary setbacks as permanent identity. Failure is an event, not a person. Ask yourself honestly, what fears are controlling my decisions right now? What opportunities have I avoided because of fear of embarrassment or rejection? Am I learning from mistakes or emotionally living inside them? Do I avoid discomfort so much that I also avoid growth? What would change if I saw failure as feedback instead of proof of inadequacy? The deeper message behind this chapter is deeply liberating. The failure mechanism does not need to be destroyed because it serves an important purpose. It simply needs to be managed wisely. Fear can provide caution, but it should not become the ruler of your life. Mistakes can provide feedback, but they should not become your identity. The people who grow the most are not those who never fail. They are the ones who refuse to let failure permanently define who they are or what they are capable of becoming. Main points: key lessons. Human beings possess both a success mechanism and a failure mechanism. Fear becomes destructive when it controls behavior constantly. Avoidance strengthens fear and weakens confidence. Failure is feedback, not proof of personal worthlessness. Excessive self-consciousness interferes with natural performance. Mistakes are necessary parts of learning and growth. Comparison damages self-image and emotional stability. Forgiveness helps release guilt and emotional paralysis. Actionable lessons you can apply: stop defining yourself by past mistakes. Separate temporary failures from personal identity. Face fears gradually instead of avoiding them. Small actions weaken fear over time. Treat setbacks as information. Ask what lessons can be learned instead of emotionally collapsing. Reduce unhealthy comparison. Focus on your own growth instead of constantly measuring yourself against others. Practice self-forgiveness. Learn from the past without mentally punishing yourself forever. Shift focus from perfection to progress. Consistent improvement matters more than flawless performance. Reflective questions: what fears are silently controlling my life? What opportunities have I avoided because of fear of failure? Do I interpret mistakes as lessons or as proof of inadequacy? Am I strengthening fear through avoidance? What could become possible if I stopped treating failure as permanent identity? How to remove emotional scars. Physical wounds usually heal with time. A cut on the skin slowly closes. Pain fades, and eventually only a faint mark may remain. But emotional wounds often work very differently. In this deeply important chapter of Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz explains that many people continue carrying invisible emotional scars for years or even decades without realizing how strongly those wounds still influence their confidence, relationships, decisions, and self-image. These emotional scars are created by painful experiences such as rejection, humiliation, betrayal, criticism, failure, abandonment, bullying, heartbreak, embarrassment, or guilt. The event itself may have happened long ago, but emotionally the mind continues replaying it as though it was still happening. Over time, these unresolved emotional injuries silently shape personality and behavior. Imagine a child who was constantly criticized growing up. Every mistake they made was mocked or punished harshly. As an adult, they may appear functional on the outside, but internally they carry a deep fear judgment. They become perfectionists, overthink conversations, avoid risks, and feel devastated by criticism because old emotional wounds still control their nervous system. Even though childhood ended years ago, the emotional scar remains active. Maltz believed many adults are not truly reacting to present situations. They are reacting to old emotional memories that still live inside them. Think about someone who was betrayed in a past relationship. Years later, they enter a new relationship with someone trustworthy, but they still struggle to trust fully. They become suspicious, emotionally guarded, or fearful of vulnerability. Why? Because the subconscious mind learned. Getting emotionally close leads to pain. The emotional scar quietly shapes present behavior. One of the most painful things about emotional scars is that people often build entire identities around them without realizing it. Someone rejected socially during teenage years may unconsciously become the shy person. Someone repeatedly criticized may become the insecure person. Someone who failed publicly may become the person who avoids attention. Instead of treating painful experiences as events that happened, they begin treating them as definitions of who they are. This chapter teaches that healing emotional scars begins by understanding a powerful truth. Past experiences influence you, but they do not have to permanently define you. Maltz explains that emotional scars continue hurting because people mentally reopen them repeatedly. They replay old humiliations, arguments, betrayals, and failures over and over inside their minds. Each replay strengthens the emotional memory. It is similar to constantly scratching a physical wound instead of allowing it to heal. Imagine someone who still feels anger toward a person who insulted them years ago. Every time they think about that event, the same emotional pain returns. Their body reacts again with stress, anger, resentment, or sadness even though the situation is over. In many cases, the person who caused the pain has already moved on, but the emotional wound continues because the injured person keeps reliving it internally. Maltz emphasizes that forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools for emotional healing. This does not mean pretending harmful behavior was acceptable. It does not mean forgetting painful experiences completely. Instead, forgiveness means refusing to let past pain continue controlling your emotional life forever. Many people misunderstand forgiveness because they think it benefits only the other person. But often forgiveness mainly frees a person carrying the emotional burden. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack every day filled with resentment, regret, guilt, and bitterness. At first, the weight feels manageable, but over time it becomes exhausting. Emotional scars work similarly. Holding on to old pain drains energy, peace, confidence, and emotional freedom. This chapter also discusses guilt as a major source of emotional scars. Many people secretly punish themselves for mistakes they made years ago. Even after circumstances change, they continue internally repeating, "I ruined everything. I don't deserve happiness. I can never forgive myself." Maltz argues that healthy guilt should teach lessons temporarily, not destroy self-worth permanently. If someone made mistakes in the past, the important question becomes, what can I learn from this experience? Not, how can I continue emotionally torturing myself forever? Imagine someone who failed financially years ago and still defines themselves by that failure. Every new opportunity feels terrifying because they are emotionally trapped inside old memories. But if they begin seeing the experience as education instead of permanent identity, emotional healing becomes possible. Another important idea in this chapter is that emotional scars distort perception. A person deeply wounded by criticism may begin interpreting neutral comments as attacks. Someone emotionally hurt by rejection may become overly sensitive to small signs of disinterest. Old pain changes how the brain interprets present experiences. This is why healing matters so much. Without healing, people unintentionally carry past pain into new situations, relationships, and opportunities. Maltz also explains that one of the best ways to weaken emotional scars is through creating new emotional experiences. The mind slowly changes when it gathers new evidence. For example, a person hurt socially in the past can slowly rebuild confidence through healthy conversations and supportive relationships. Someone afraid of failure can gradually regain trust by taking small risks and surviving mistakes. A person carrying shame can begin building self-respect through meaningful actions and self-acceptance. Healing rarely happens instantly. Emotional scars usually fade gradually through understanding, forgiveness, healthy experiences, and repeated emotional correction. One fascinating lesson in this chapter is that people often unconsciously protect their emotional scars because pain becomes familiar. Some individuals become so identified with their suffering that healing almost feels uncomfortable. They may repeatedly revisit old pain because it became part of their identity. This is why true healing sometimes requires letting go not only of pain, but also the identity built around pain. Maltz encourages readers to stop emotionally living inside old memories and begin reconnecting with the present. Life cannot fully move forward while the mind constantly travels backward. Think about how many people lose years of peace because they cannot stop replaying things they cannot change anymore. The past may contain lessons, but it should not become a permanent emotional prison. This chapter asks deeply personal questions. What emotional wounds am I still carrying? What painful memories do I replay repeatedly? Am I allowing past experiences to control present relationships and decisions? What resentment or guilt do I need to release? Who would I become if I stopped defining myself by old emotional pain? The deeper message behind this chapter is incredibly compassionate and hopeful. Emotional scars are real, and painful experiences can deeply affect the human mind. But wounds do not need to become permanent identity. Healing becomes possible when people stop feeding old pain constantly, forgive themselves and others, create healthy experiences, and slowly build a new self-image no longer controlled by the past. Your emotional scars may explain some of your struggles, but they do not have to determine your future forever. Main points key lessons emotional scars from past experiences strongly influence self-image and behavior. Old emotional wounds often continue affecting present decisions and relationships. Replaying painful memories repeatedly strengthens emotional suffering. Forgiveness helps release emotional burdens and resentment. Guilt should teach lessons, not permanently destroy self-worth. Emotional scars distort how people interpret present experiences. Healing requires new positive emotional experiences over time. The past can influence you without permanently defining you. Actionable lessons you can apply identify unresolved emotional wounds. Notice what painful memories still trigger strong emotional reactions. Stop mentally replaying painful experiences constantly. Learn from the past without emotionally reliving it every day. Practice forgiveness gradually. Release resentment for your own emotional freedom, not just for others. Separate identity from past mistakes. Bad experiences are events, not permanent definitions of who you are. Create new positive experiences. Build healthier relationships, habits, and challenges that reshape self-image. Speak to yourself with compassion. Replace constant self-punishment with understanding and growth-oriented thinking. Reflective questions: what emotional scars am I still carrying from past? How are those wounds affecting my current life and relationships? What memories do I replay repeatedly in my mind? What resentment or guilt do I need to release? What kind of person could I become if I stopped defining myself by past pain? How to unlock your real personality. Have you ever felt like there's a version of yourself hidden underneath fear, overthinking, insecurity, and self-doubt? A version that feels more confident, relaxed, expressive, creative, and authentic, but somehow rarely appears in everyday life? In this deeply insightful chapter of Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz argues that many people are not truly expressing their real personality. Instead, they are living behind protective masks created by fear, criticism, emotional scars, and negative self-image. According to Maltz, the real personality of a human being is naturally more alive, spontaneous, capable, social, and creative than most people realize. But over time, many individuals become psychologically trapped by self-consciousness. They become so worried about judgment, rejection, embarrassment, and failure that their natural personality gets buried underneath tension and emotional defense mechanisms. Imagine a young child laughing freely, speaking openly, expressing emotions honestly, and trying new things without constantly worrying about being judged. Most children naturally display curiosity, imagination, energy, and emotional openness. But as people grow older, painful experiences often begin shaping behavior. Criticism, humiliation, comparison, rejection, bullying, failure, or toxic environments slowly teach people to hide part of themselves. A child marked for speaking up may become quiet. A teenager embarrassed socially may become withdrawn. A creative person criticized repeatedly may stop expressing ideas. Someone hurt emotionally may become guarded and emotionally distant. Over time, these protective patterns stop feeling temporary and start feeling like identity. Maltz explains that many people mistake defensive behavior for their true personality. A person may say, "I'm just shy. I'm naturally awkward. I'm not a confident person." But often what they call personality is actually years of emotional conditioning and self-protection. This chapter challenges readers to consider a powerful possibility. What if your real personality is not weak, fearful, or incapable? What if it has simply been restricted by negative self-image and excessive self-consciousness? One of the biggest obstacles to unlocking authentic personality, according to Maltz, is excessive self-focus. Many people spend enormous mental energy constantly monitoring themselves. How do I sound? What do people think of me? Am I embarrassing myself? Do I look confident enough? This constant self-observation creates tension and prevents natural expression. Think about moments when you felt completely comfortable around close friends or family. During those moments, conversation often flows naturally. You laugh easily, think clearly, and act more authentically because fear of judgment temporarily disappears. Your real personality comes forward when tension decreases. Now compare that to situations where you feel heavily judged or anxious. Suddenly your speech changes, your body becomes tense, and you start overthinking everything. It may feel as though your personality disappears. But Maltz argues that your personality did not disappear. It became blocked by fear and self-consciousness. This explains why some people seem completely different depending on the environment. Someone may appear quiet and awkward in one situation, but energetic and confident in another. Their personality changes because emotional safety changes. Maltz believed the real personality functions best when people stop obsessively trying to control every impression they make. Human beings are naturally more effective socially and creatively when relaxed rather than over-controlled. Imagine an athlete performing naturally during practice but suddenly struggling during competition because they become hyper-aware of mistakes. Or imagine someone who sings beautifully alone but freezes when others listen. Their ability did not vanish. Fear interrupted natural expression. The same principle applies to personality itself. One fascinating lesson in this chapter is that authenticity attracts people more than perfection. Many individuals spend years trying to appear flawless, impressive, or socially acceptable. Ironically, this often makes them feel emotionally disconnected and exhausted because they are performing instead of genuinely connecting. Think about the people who feel most enjoyable to be around. Often they are not perfect, overly polished, or constantly trying to impress others. They feel comfortable being themselves. That emotional freedom creates warmth and natural confidence. Maltz explains that healthy personality emerges when people stop defining themselves by fear and begin trusting their natural abilities more. This chapter also discusses creativity as part of authentic personality. Human beings naturally possess imagination, curiosity, emotional depth, humor, and individuality. But fear of judgment often suppresses creativity. Imagine someone who loves drawing, writing, music, or content creation but constantly thinks, what if people think it's bad? What if I fail publicly? Because of these fears, they never fully express themselves. Years later, they feel disconnected from their own passions. Maltz encourages readers to stop waiting for perfect confidence before expressing themselves. Real personality develops through participation, experimentation, and action, not endless mental preparation. Another major idea in this chapter is self-acceptance. Many people reject parts of themselves constantly. They compare themselves endlessly to others and feel they must become someone else before deserving confidence or love. But this internal rejection creates emotional tension. A person who constantly thinks, I'm not enough, I need to be different to matter, will struggle to express authenticity because they are emotionally fighting themselves all the time. Maltz argues that unlocking personality requires reducing internal conflict. Self-acceptance creates relaxation, and relaxation allows natural expression. This does not mean refusing growth or improvement. It means understanding that worthiness is not something earned only after perfection. Think about someone learning social confidence. If they expect themselves to never feel awkward, they become emotionally overwhelmed by every small mistake. But if they accept imperfection as normal, conversations become easier because pressure decreases. The chapter also teaches that action reshapes identity. Many people believe they must first feel confident before behaving confidently. But often the opposite is true. Confidence grows after repeated action. Imagine someone terrified of public speaking. If they avoid speaking forever, fear strengthens continuously. But if they gradually practice in small situations, their nervous system slowly adapts. Over time, what once felt impossible starts feeling manageable. This is how authentic personality expands, through experience, not isolation. Maltz also warns against allowing labels to become permanent prisons. Society often gives people identities. The quiet one, the awkward one, the emotional one, the failure. But human beings are far more flexible than these labels suggest. A person who struggles socially at 16 does not need to remain socially trapped forever. A person who once lacked confidence can gradually become more expressive. A person who once felt emotionally broken can rebuild self-trust over time. The real personality is often buried beneath fear, not destroyed by it. This chapter asks deeply personal questions. Who am I when fear is absent? What parts of my personality have I hidden because of criticism or rejection? Am I living authentically or performing constantly for approval? What would happen if I trusted myself more? What talents, emotions, creativity, or confidence have I suppressed for years? The deeper message behind this chapter is incredibly freeing. Most people do not need to completely reinvent themselves to become happier and more confident. Often they simply need to remove the emotional barriers blocking their natural personality. Beneath insecurity, fear, and overthinking, there is usually a more relaxed, capable, expressive version of yourself waiting to emerge. Unlocking your real personality is not about becoming someone fake or artificial. It is about removing the fear that prevents you from fully becoming yourself. Main points: key lessons. Many people hide their real personality behind fear and self-consciousness. Negative experiences often create defensive behavior patterns. Excessive self-focus blocks natural confidence and expression. Authenticity creates stronger connection than perfection. Relaxation helps natural personality emerge. Self-acceptance reduces emotional tension and insecurity. Confidence develops through action and experience. Personality is more flexible than most people believe. Actionable. Lessons you can apply reduce excessive self-monitoring. Focus more on connecting with others and analyzing yourself constantly. Challenge limiting personality labels. Stop treating old identities as permanent truth. Practice self-acceptance. Allow yourself to be imperfect while continuing to grow. Express yourself more often. Share ideas, creativity, opinions, and emotions without waiting for perfect confidence. Take gradual social and emotional risks. Small actions slowly build natural confidence. Spend time in environments where you feel emotionally safe. Supportive environments help authentic personality emerge more easily. Reflective questions: what parts of my personality have I hidden because of fear? Am I expressing my authentic self or performing for approval? What labels about myself am I still carrying from past? When do I feel most natural and relaxed? What could become possible if I trusted my real personality more? Do-it-yourself tranquilizers that bring peace of mind. Modern life has made anxiety feel almost normal. Many people wake up already stressed, spend the entire day mentally overloaded, and go to sleep with racing thoughts still running through their minds. Worry about money, relationships, work, health, social approval, the future, and personal failure constantly pulls the nervous system into tension. In this calming and deeply practical chapter of Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz explains that peace of mind is not something that appears automatically from perfect circumstances. It is something that must be intentionally created through healthy mental habits and emotional control. Maltz introduces the idea of do-it-yourself tranquilizers, meaning natural psychological methods that calm the mind without depending on external escape mechanisms. He believed many people suffer unnecessarily because they never learn how to mentally relax. Instead of calming themselves constructively, they feed anxiety continuously through overthinking, fear, emotional replaying, comparison, and constant mental pressure. One of the most important lessons in this chapter is that the human nervous system was not designed to remain under non-stop emotional tension. Yet many people live as though they must constantly worry in order to stay responsible or safe. They believe endless stress somehow protect them from future problems. But in reality, chronic anxiety often weakens judgment, damages emotional health, reduces creativity, harms relationships, and drains energy. Imagine someone lying awake at night replaying every possible future disaster. What if I fail? What if things go wrong? What if people judge me? What if I lose everything? Their body reacts as though danger is happening right now, even though the threats exist only in imagination. Heart rate increases, muscles tighten, breathing becomes shallow, and the nervous system stays trapped in survival mode. Over time, this mental habit becomes emotionally exhausting. Maltz argues that peace of mind begins with understanding a powerful truth. Not every thought deserves attention. Many people automatically believe every fearful idea that enters their minds. But thoughts are often exaggerated, emotional, irrational, or temporary. Learning to mentally step back from anxious thinking is one of the keys to inner calm. Imagine receiving criticism online. One person spends days obsessing over it, replaying the comment repeatedly, emotionally reliving it over and over. Their peace disappears because they mentally feed the negativity constantly. Another person acknowledges the criticism, evaluates whether it contains useful feedback, and then moves forward without emotionally attaching to it forever. The same external event happened, but the internal response created completely different emotional outcomes. This chapter teaches that peace of mind depends less on controlling every external circumstance and more on controlling internal reactions. One of Maltz's most powerful ideas is the importance of mental relaxation. Many people know how to physically rest, but do not know how to mentally rest. Even during vacations or free time, their minds continue racing endlessly. They replay conversations, imagine future problems, compare themselves to others, or mentally criticize themselves constantly. Think about how difficult it has become for many people to simply sit quietly without stimulation. Phones, notifications, social media, entertainment, news, and comparison keep the mind overstimulated almost every moment. As a result, the nervous system rarely experiences true calm. Maltz encourages readers to intentionally create moments of mental silence and emotional stillness. This could involve walking quietly, deep breathing, prayer, meditation, visualization, reflection, nature, creative hobbies, or simply sitting peacefully without constant distraction. One practical technique discussed in the chapter is learning to let go mentally instead of trying to force control over everything. Many people suffer because they believe they must solve every future possibility immediately. They mentally grip life too tightly. Imagine someone starting a business who spends every day terrified about possible failure. They constantly monitor results, panic about uncertainty, and pressure themselves endlessly. Eventually, anxiety begins harming performance itself. Now imagine someone equally hardworking but calmer internally. They still plan carefully and take responsibility, but they understand that no human being can completely control every outcome. Because they are less emotionally tense, they think more clearly and recover faster from setbacks. Maltz believed inner calm improves performance rather than weakening it. Another major tranquilizer discussed in this chapter is learning to live in the present moment. Many people emotionally suffer because they constantly live mentally in the future or the past. They worry endlessly about things that have not happened yet or replay experiences that cannot be changed anymore. Imagine sitting with loved ones during a peaceful evening, but mentally being somewhere else entirely, thinking about tomorrow's problems, regretting yesterday's mistakes, comparing your life to someone else online, physically present, emotionally absent. Maltz argues that peace becomes impossible when attention constantly escapes the present. This chapter also discusses the importance of perspective. Human beings often emotionally magnify problems until they appear enormous and unbearable. A small embarrassment feels like total humiliation. A temporary setback feels like permanent disaster. But when emotions calm down, problems often appear far more manageable. Think about situations that once felt catastrophic, but later seemed minor with time. In the moment, emotions exaggerated their importance. Rational perspective arrived only after emotional intensity faded. One fascinating lesson in this chapter is that resentment destroys peace of mind more than most people realize. Holding on to anger, bitterness, jealousy, or hatred keeps the nervous system emotionally disturbed continuously. Imagine carrying resentment towards someone for years. Even if they are absent, your mind still returns to the anger repeatedly. The emotional poison continues affecting you long after the original situation ended. Forgiveness, according to Maltz, is not weakness. It is emotional freedom. It allows the nervous system to stop reliving pain constantly. This chapter also highlights the importance of humor and emotional lightness. Many people become so serious, tense, and self-critical that they lose the ability to emotionally relax. But laughter, playfulness, and perspective help interrupt mental rigidity. Think about how different life feels around emotionally calm people. They are not free from problems, but they do not emotionally collapse over every inconvenience. Their nervous system remains more balanced because they refuse to mentally dramatize everything constantly. Maltz also emphasizes sleep, rest, and physical relaxation. Emotional stress and physical tension are deeply connected. A tired, overstimulated body often increases anxious thinking. This is why rest, breathing, posture, movement, and recovery matter psychologically as well as physically. One of the deepest messages in this chapter is that peace of mind is not found by eliminating every uncertainty in life. That is impossible. Peace comes from developing the ability to remain emotionally balanced even when uncertainty exists. Ask yourself honestly, what thoughts repeatedly steal my peace? Am I mentally replaying fears more than living actual life? Do I know how to truly relax emotionally? What resentments or worries am I still carrying? How often do I allow myself to experience silence and calm? The chapter ultimately teaches that peace of mind is not accidental. It is created through mental discipline, emotional perspective, relaxation, forgiveness, present moment awareness, and healthier thinking habits. The mind becomes calmer when you stop feeding it constant fear, overthinking, and emotional tension. The deeper message is incredibly comforting. You may not control everything happening around you, but you can gradually learn to create greater calm within yourself. And sometimes that inner peace becomes more valuable than external success itself. Main points: key lessons. Constant worry and overthinking damage peace of mind. Not every thought deserves emotional attention. Mental relaxation is essential for emotional health. Living in the present reduces unnecessary anxiety. Perspective helps prevent emotional exaggeration. Resentment and bitterness disturb inner peace. Forgiveness creates emotional freedom. Calmness improves judgment, creativity, and resilience. Actionable lessons you can apply: create daily moments of mental quiet. Spend time away from constant stimulation and noise. Practice observing thoughts without believing all of them. Question fearful or exaggerated thinking patterns. Focus on the present moment. Avoid constantly living inside future worries or past regrets. Learn relaxation techniques. Deep breathing, walking, meditation, prayer, or silence can calm the nervous system. Release resentment gradually. Forgiveness helps free emotional energy trapped in old pain. Stop trying to control everything. Focus on what you can influence instead of obsessing over uncertainty. Reflective questions: what habits are currently stealing my peace of mind? Do I know how to mentally relax? Only distract myself? What fears or resentments am I still feeding emotionally? How much time do I spend worrying about things outside my control? What would my life feel like if my mind became calmer and less tense? How to turn a crisis into a creative opportunity. Most people see crisis as proof that life is falling apart. The moment something unexpected happens, failure, rejection, loss, financial struggle, heartbreak, criticism, uncertainty, or personal disappointment, the mind immediately moves toward fear and panic. It feels as though the entire future has been destroyed. But in this powerful chapter of Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz presents a completely different perspective. He argues that crises, while painful and uncomfortable, often contain hidden opportunities for growth, creativity, reinvention, wisdom, and transformation. According to Maltz, the human mind has an incredible ability to adapt, solve problems, and create new paths forward, but this ability often activates most strongly during difficult moments. Many people discover strengths, talents, courage, and possibilities only because life forced them into uncomfortable situations they never would have chosen voluntarily. Think about moments in history where some of the greatest inventions, businesses, personal transformations, or artistic breakthroughs emerge from periods of struggle. Human beings often grow the most not during comfort, but during challenge. Crisis interrupts routine, forces reevaluation, and pushes people to think differently. Imagine someone losing a job they depended on for years. Initially, the situation feels devastating. Fear takes over. What if I never recover? My life is ruined. I've failed. For weeks or months, they may feel emotionally lost. But eventually, because they are forced to rethink their direction, they begin learning new skills, exploring opportunities, starting projects, or pursuing work they were previously too afraid to attempt. Years later, they may look back and realize that the painful crisis pushed them toward a better path they never would have discovered otherwise. This does not mean suffering magically becomes pleasant. Maltz is not pretending crises are easy or painless. Emotional pain is real. Fear is real. Uncertainty is real. But the chapter teaches that crisis becomes far more dangerous when people emotionally surrender to hopelessness instead of creatively responding to the situation. One of the most important ideas in this chapter is that the meaning people attach to adversity strongly shapes the outcome. Two people can experience similar difficulties but respond completely differently. One person interprets crisis as, "This proves I'm powerless. My life is over. There's no point trying anymore." As a result, they emotionally collapse, stop taking action, and become trapped in helplessness. Another person experiences the same pain, but eventually asks, "What can this situation teach me? What new possibilities exist now? How can I adapt and move forward?" This mindset activates creativity and resilience instead of paralysis. Maltz believed that many people underestimate the flexibility and problem-solving ability of the human mind. When old paths disappear, new paths can emerge, but only if the mind remains open instead of consumed entirely by fear. Think about nature itself. Forest fires destroy old growth, yet they also create space for new life to emerge. Muscles grow stronger after resistance and recovery. Even broken bones, once healed, can become stronger at the fracture point. In many ways, human beings grow similarly through adversity. This chapter also explores how crisis often reveals hidden truths. During comfortable periods, people sometimes avoid difficult questions. Am I truly happy? Am I living authentically? Am I wasting my potential? Am I trapped in fear or routine? But crisis forces self-examination. Imagine someone staying in a career they secretly dislike for years simply because it feels safe. Then suddenly circumstances change. Layoffs happen, business collapses, or life becomes unstable. At first they panic because a familiar structure disappears. But eventually they begin discovering interests, passions, and strengths that were buried underneath routine and fear. Many people who later transform their lives can trace that transformation back to a painful turning point they originally viewed as disaster. Maltz also explains that creativity often increases when people stop depending entirely on old solutions. Crisis forces a brain to search for alternatives. A person who never believed they could adapt suddenly discovers resourcefulness they did not know existed. Imagine a small business owner facing financial difficulty. At first they feel overwhelmed. But because survival requires change, they start experimenting with new ideas, learning digital skills, improving communication, building online presence, or finding creative solutions they never previously considered. The pressure of crisis activates growth. This chapter teaches that human beings are often stronger and more capable than they realize. The problem is that comfort sometimes hides unused potential. Crisis exposes it. Another important lesson is emotional control during difficult times. Maltz warns that fear narrows thinking. When panic takes over, people stop seeing possibilities clearly. Their imagination becomes focused entirely on disaster scenarios. But when emotional intensity decreases, creativity and problem-solving return. Think about someone experiencing relationship heartbreak. Initially, emotions may convince them, "I'll never recover. I'll always feel this way." But with time, reflection, healing, and growth, they may eventually become wiser, emotionally stronger, more self-aware, and more intentional in future relationships. The crisis becomes part of personal development rather than permanent destruction. One fascinating point in this chapter is that adversity often builds qualities comfort cannot teach. Patience, resilience, courage, empathy, adaptability, and emotional maturity frequently develop through challenge rather than ease. Imagine two people. One has avoided every difficulty and discomfort their entire life. The other has faced setbacks, uncertainty, rejection, and failure but learned to keep moving forward. The second person often develops deeper emotional strength because adversity trained resilience. Maltz emphasizes that crisis should not become identity. Many people experience painful events and unconsciously begin defining themselves by those events. The divorced person, the failed entrepreneur, the rejected artist, the unlucky person. But crisis is an experience, not a permanent identity. The chapter encourages readers to avoid emotionally freezing themselves inside difficult chapters of life. A painful moment may influence your story, but it does not need to determine the rest of it. This chapter also introduces the importance of flexibility. Rigid thinking struggles during crisis because life rarely unfolds perfectly according to plan. Flexible thinkers adapt more effectively because they accept change as part of reality. Imagine a traveler whose planned route suddenly becomes blocked. A rigid person may emotionally collapse because the original plan failed. A flexible person searches for another route. The destination may still remain possible through adjustment. Life often works similarly. Maltz encourages readers to stop asking only, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What can I create from this situation?" That single shift changes the emotional energy completely. This chapter asks deeply important reflective questions. What crisis in my life might secretly contain opportunity? Am I reacting to difficulty with panic or creativity? What strengths have difficult experiences forced me to develop? Have painful experiences revealed truths I was previously avoiding? What new direction could emerge from this challenge? The deeper message behind this chapter is incredibly empowering. Crisis does not automatically destroy people. Often it reveals them. Difficult moments can uncover courage, wisdom, creativity, resilience, and transformation that comfort never demanded. Some of the greatest changes in life begin not with certainty and ease, but with confusion, discomfort, and unexpected disruption. A crisis can either become the moment a person emotionally gives up, or the moment they begin reinventing themselves. Main Point's key lessons crisis often contains hidden opportunities for growth and transformation. Fear and panic limit creativity and problem solving. The meaning people assign to adversity shapes emotional outcomes. Difficult experiences often reveal hidden strengths and abilities. Adversity can create resilience, courage, and emotional maturity. Flexibility helps people adapt during uncertain situations. Crisis is an experience, not a permanent identity. Creative thinking becomes possible when emotional panic decreases. Actionable lessons you can apply reframe difficult situations. Ask what lessons or opportunities may exist inside current struggles. Avoid making permanent conclusions during emotional pain. Give yourself time before deciding your future is ruined. Focus on adaptation instead of resistance. Search for new paths when old ones disappear. Practice emotional calm during challenges. A calmer mind sees solutions more clearly. Develop flexibility. Accept that life may require changing plans and directions. Use adversity as motivation for growth. Learn skills, strengthen mindset, and build resilience through hardship. Reflective questions: what current challenge in my life could become a turning point for growth? Am I responding to crisis with fear or creativity? What strength have past struggles helped me develop? Am I treating a temporary problem as permanent identity? What new opportunities might appear if I stop viewing crisis only as disaster? How to get that winning feeling. Have you ever noticed how differently people behave when they genuinely believe they can succeed? Their posture changes, their energy feels lighter, their decisions become bolder, and they approach challenges with greater confidence. Meanwhile, someone trapped in defeat mentally hesitates constantly, doubts every step, overthinks simple situations, and often gives up before even trying. In this powerful chapter of Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz explains that success is not only built through external achievement, it is also deeply connected to an internal emotional state he calls a winning feeling. This winning feeling is not arrogance, blind positivity, or pretending problems do not exist. It is a quiet inner sense of capability, self-trust, momentum, and possibility. According to Maltz, people perform far better when they emotionally condition themselves to expect progress instead of defeat. One of the most important ideas in this chapter is that human beings often act according to what they emotionally expect. If someone constantly expects embarrassment, rejection, failure, or disappointment, their behavior usually becomes cautious, tense, and fearful. Ironically, those emotional patterns often increase the likelihood of poor results. But when people begin expecting improvement and possibility, their actions gradually become more confident and effective. Imagine two students walking into the same exam. One secretly believes, "I'm terrible at this. I always mess things up. I'll probably fail." Their anxiety rises immediately, memory weakens, concentration decreases, and panic interferes with performance. Now imagine another student who prepared similarly but thinks, "I may not know everything perfectly, but I can handle this. I'll do my best calmly." That mindset creates emotional stability, allowing the brain to function more clearly. The difference is not merely intelligence. It is emotional conditioning. Maltz explains that many people unknowingly practice losing emotionally every day. They mentally rehearse failure before events even happen, before conversations, opportunities, performances, or challenges. They imagine everything going wrong. Over time, the subconscious mind becomes conditioned toward defeat. Think about someone preparing for a job interview while constantly imagining embarrassment. What if I freeze? What if they reject me? What if I sound stupid? Even before entering the room, their nervous system already feels defeated. Now imagine someone who visualizes themselves remaining calm, answering naturally, and handling the situation confidently. Their emotional state becomes completely different because the mind responds strongly to imagined experiences. This chapter teaches that the subconscious mind does not sharply distinguish between vividly imagined emotional experiences and real ones. Repeated mental rehearsal influences confidence, behavior, and emotional expectation. That is why athletes often visualize successful performance before competitions. A basketball player imagines making successful shots. A public speaker imagines speaking clearly and confidently. A performer mentally rehearses success repeatedly. This mental conditioning strengthens emotional readiness. Maltz believed many people fail not because they lack talent, but because their self-image is emotionally conditioned toward defeat. Imagine someone who uploads content online. If they constantly interpret every low-view video as proof of personal failure, they lose motivation quickly. But another creator views mistakes, slow growth, and imperfect results as part of the process. Their emotional resilience allows them to continue improving long enough to eventually succeed. The winning feeling comes partly from learning to interpret experiences differently. One fascinating lesson in this chapter is that success often grows through small victories. Many people wait for one huge achievement before allowing themselves to feel confident. But Maltz explains that confidence strengthens gradually through repeated evidence of progress. Think about someone beginning fitness training. Initially, they may feel weak and discouraged, but after small improvements, one extra push-up, slightly more stamina, healthier habits, momentum begins building. The brain slowly starts associating effort with progress instead of defeat. Small wins create emotional momentum. This principle applies everywhere. A shy person speaking up once in conversation, a nervous creator uploading their first video, a student improving slightly after struggling academically, someone recovering emotionally after heartbreak. Tiny victories gradually reshape self-image. Maltz explains that human beings psychologically need experiences of success, even small ones, because repeated failure without encouragement weakens motivation. This is why celebrating progress matters. Another major idea in this chapter is the importance of imagination. The mind naturally moves toward pictures held repeatedly in consciousness. People who constantly imagine humiliation, disaster, and inadequacy emotionally train themselves toward fear. But those who imagine constructive outcomes help strengthen emotional confidence. Imagine a golfer standing before a shot thinking, "Don't miss." Their focus becomes centered on failure. Now imagine another golfer thinking, "Smooth swing, good contact." The second mindset directs attention toward successful action rather than fearful avoidance. The same principle applies socially, professionally, creatively, and emotionally. Maltz also discusses how body language and physical state affect emotional conditioning. Someone constantly slouching, avoiding eye contact, speaking timidly, and moving fearfully reinforces feelings of weakness internally. But posture, breathing, movement, and voice all influence emotional state. Think about how different you feel when exhausted, tense, and withdrawn compared to standing upright, breathing deeply, and moving confidently. The body and mind constantly influence each other. This chapter emphasizes that the winning feeling is not reserved only for people already at the top. In fact, many successful individuals developed that feeling long before visible success arrived. They learned to emotionally identify with growth, possibility, and progress instead of permanent defeat. One important warning Maltz gives is against perfectionism. Many people destroy their own motivation because they expect flawless results immediately. Every mistake feels catastrophic. But the winning mindset accepts temporary setbacks as normal parts of learning. Imagine someone learning public speaking who becomes embarrassed after one awkward presentation and immediately concludes, "I'm not meant for this." They emotionally train themselves toward quitting. Another person experiences the same awkwardness but says, "That was uncomfortable, but I improved." The second person keeps moving forward because they focus on progress rather than perfection. This chapter also highlights the importance of surrounding yourself with constructive emotional environments. Constant negativity, criticism, and discouragement weaken the winning feeling. Supportive people, healthy challenges, and growth-oriented environments strengthen it. Maltz believed that people become what they repeatedly rehearse emotionally. If your mind constantly rehearses defeat, fear, and inadequacy, confidence weakens. But if your mind repeatedly practices calmness, effort, resilience, and constructive expectation, the nervous system slowly adapts. The chapter asks deeply personal questions. What emotional outcome am I rehearsing daily? Do I secretly expect failure before trying? How often do I acknowledge my progress? Am I mentally strengthening confidence or defeat? What small victory could I start building today? The deeper message behind this chapter is deeply motivating. The winning feeling is not something magical granted only to naturally confident people. It can be cultivated gradually through imagination, repetition, self-belief, action, emotional conditioning, and small experiences of progress. Confidence grows when the mind repeatedly experiences evidence that effort can lead somewhere meaningful. You do not need to become perfect overnight to develop a winning mindset. Sometimes it begins simply by refusing to emotionally declare defeat before life has even given you the opportunity to grow. Main points key lessons emotional expectations strongly influences performance and behavior. The subconscious mind responds to repeated mental rehearsal. Small victories gradually build confidence and momentum. Visualization strengthens emotional readiness for success. Fearful imagination conditions a mind toward defeat. Confidence grows through repeated action and progress. Perfectionism weakens motivation and resilience. The body and mind constantly influence each other. Actionable lessons you can apply. Visualize successful outcomes regularly. Imagine yourself handling situations calmly and confidently. Focus on small wins. Celebrate progress instead of waiting for massive success. Stop rehearsing failure mentally. Replace catastrophic thinking with constructive possibilities. Build confidence through action. Repeated experience creates emotional momentum. Improve physical state. Better posture, breathing, and movement can strengthen confidence. Accept imperfection during growth. Mistakes are part of building long-term success. Reflective questions: what outcomes am I emotionally expecting most often? Am I mentally practicing success or defeat daily? What small victories have I ignored recently? How does my self-image influence my behavior? What would change if I started approaching life with greater expectation of growth and possibility? More years of life and more life in your years. Many people believe aging is simply a physical process controlled entirely by time. They assume that as the years pass, energy disappears, excitement fades, creativity weakens, and life slowly becomes smaller and more limited. But in this inspiring final chapter of Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz challenges this belief completely. He argues that while the body naturally changes with age, many people psychologically grow old far earlier than necessary because they stop growing mentally, emotionally, creatively, and spiritually. According to Maltz, there is a huge difference between merely adding years to life and adding life to years. Some people remain curious, hopeful, creative, energetic, and emotionally alive well into old age, while others emotionally shut down much earlier. The difference often comes less from age itself and more from attitude, self-image, purpose, mental habits, and engagement with life. Think about people you may have met who seem young in spirit regardless of age. They remain interested in learning, exploring, creating, helping others, adapting, and growing. They laugh easily, stay curious, and continue developing goals. Being around them feels energizing because they are psychologically alive. Now compare that to someone much younger who already feels emotionally exhausted by life. They have stopped dreaming, stopped trying new things, and stopped believing change is possible. Their body may still be young, but mentally they already feel defeated and disconnected. Maltz explains that one of the greatest dangers in life is not physical aging itself, but psychological stagnation. Human beings thrive when they continue moving toward meaningful goals. The mind and spirit weaken when life becomes emotionally empty, repetitive, hopeless, or directionless. This is why many people experience emotional decline after retirement, major loss, heartbreak, or giving up on personal growth. Once purpose disappears, energy often fades with it. Imagine two retired individuals. One views retirement as the end of meaningful contribution. They spend most days disconnected, passive, and mentally inactive. Gradually, their enthusiasm and emotional vitality decline. The other person treats retirement as the beginning of a new chapter. They learn skills, pursue hobbies, volunteer, strengthen relationships, travel, create projects, or mentor younger people. Their body still ages naturally, but emotionally they remain engaged with life. The second person often appears far more alive because purpose continues flowing through their daily experience. One of the most important ideas in this chapter is that the subconscious mind responds strongly to the image people hold about themselves. If someone constantly thinks, "I'm too old," "My best years are behind me," "It's too late for me," the mind and body begin reflecting those beliefs emotionally and behaviorally. But when people continue identifying themselves as capable of learning, contributing, and growing, they often maintain greater emotional energy and resilience. Think about how many adults stop pursuing interests simply because society tells them certain dreams belong only to younger people. Someone may secretly want to learn music, create content, start a business, improve fitness, study a subject, or travel, but they abandon the idea because they believe, "It's too late now." Maltz strongly challenges this mindset. He believed the human spirit needs growth continuously regardless of age. This chapter also discusses a connection between emotional health and physical well-being. Chronic bitterness, hopelessness, resentment, stress, fear, and emotional tension do not only affect mood, they also affect the body. Meanwhile, curiosity, optimism, purpose, relaxation, engagement, and positive emotional states often support vitality and resilience. Imagine two people facing similar life challenges. One becomes emotionally consumed by negativity and despair. The other experiences pain too, but continues searching for meaning, connection, humor, and growth. Over time, their emotional attitudes shape the quality of their life profoundly. Maltz believe that many people unintentionally accelerate emotional aging by becoming mentally rigid. They stop adapting, stop exploring new ideas, and become trapped inside old fears and routines. Think about how naturally curious children are. They constantly ask questions, experiment, imagine possibilities, and engage with the world energetically. Maltz encourages readers to preserve that mental flexibility throughout life. Curiosity keeps the mind alive. A person learning new skills at 60 often feels emotionally younger than someone who stopped growing mentally at 30. One fascinating lesson in this chapter is that happiness and vitality often come from contribution rather than passive comfort. Many people assume life satisfaction comes mainly from relaxation and ease, but long-term fulfillment usually requires meaningful engagement. Imagine someone who spends years only consuming entertainment without building, creating, helping, learning, or contributing. Even with comfort, they may eventually feel emotionally empty. Human beings need meaning as much as pleasure. This is why many people feel deeply fulfilled while mentoring others, creating art, building projects, helping communities, raising families, teaching skills, or pursuing meaningful goals. Purpose energizes life. Maltz also emphasizes the importance of imagination and future orientation. People emotionally decline when they stop looking forward to anything. The human nervous system functions better when it feels movement towards something meaningful. Imagine waking up each day with absolutely nothing that excites, interests, or motivates you. Life begins feeling emotionally flat. But even small goals, improving health, learning photography, building a channel, reading books, meeting people, traveling somewhere new, can restore emotional momentum. This chapter encourages readers never to emotionally retire from life itself. Another powerful idea discussed is adaptability. Life constantly changes. Technology changes, relationships change, careers change, society changes, and personal circumstances change. People who resist all change often become emotionally bitter and disconnected. But people who continue adapting maintain greater psychological strength. Think about someone learning technology later in life despite initial difficulty. Their willingness to stay mentally flexible keeps them engaged with the modern world instead of emotionally isolating themselves. Maltz also warns against becoming trapped in regret. Many people waste remaining years emotionally replaying what they should have done differently. But regret steals energy from present. Imagine someone at 50 or 60 constantly thinking, if only I started earlier. If only I made different choices. That mindset creates paralysis. But another person says, I cannot change the past, but I can still shape what comes next. The second mindset restores possibility. This chapter ultimately teaches that life quality depends heavily on mental attitude and emotional engagement. Aging becomes far more painful when people emotionally stop participating in life. The goal is not merely surviving longer. The goal is remaining mentally alive, emotionally connected, curious, purposeful, and engaged with existence itself. Maltz asks deeply meaningful, reflective questions. Am I still growing mentally and emotionally? What goals or dreams have I abandoned because of fear or age? Do I wake up with curiosity and purpose? Am I emotionally alive or simply existing? What activities make me feel most engaged with life? The deeper message behind this chapter is deeply hopeful and energizing. Human beings are capable of renewal far longer than most people believe. As long as curiosity, purpose, imagination, learning, and growth remain active, life can continue feeling meaningful and vibrant. The mind grows old fastest when it stops moving forward. You may not control the passing of time, but you can greatly influence whether your years become empty repetitions or meaningful chapters filled with growth, creativity, connection, and life. Main points key lesson: psychological aging often happens faster than physical aging. Purpose and growth keep people emotionally alive. Self-image strongly influences vitality and mindset. Curiosity and learning maintain mental flexibility. Emotional attitude affects overall quality of life. Contribution and meaningful engagement create fulfillment. Adaptability helps people remain connected and resilient. It is never too late to grow, learn, or begin again. Actionable lessons you can apply. Continue learning throughout life. Explore new skills, hobbies, and experiences regularly. Maintain meaningful goals. Give yourself reasons to feel excited about the future. Avoid mentally labeling yourself as too old. Focus on growth instead of limitation. Stay socially and emotionally engaged. Build relationships and contribute to others meaningfully. Replace regret with action. Focus on what can still be created moving forward. Protect curiosity and imagination. Keep asking questions, exploring ideas, and trying new things. Reflective questions: am I still growing emotionally and mentally? What dreams or interests have I abandoned unnecessarily? Do I approach life with curiosity or emotional resignation? What gives my life meaning and energy right now? How can I add more life, purpose, and engagement to my remaining years? And that brings us to the end of this incredible journey through Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. In this audiobook, we explored how your self-image shapes your reality, how your mind contains both a success mechanism and a failure mechanism, how imagination, rational thinking, relaxation, and emotional healing can completely transform your life, and how true confidence, happiness, peace of mind, and personal growth begin from within. The biggest lesson of this book is simple but life-changing. The way you see yourself determines the direction of your life. If this audiobook helped you think differently, inspired you, or gave you valuable lessons you can apply in your own life, then make sure to like this video, subscribe to Visual Books, and turn on notifications so you never miss future audiobook summaries and self-improvement content. Also share this video with someone who may need these lessons right now. Remember, changing your life often begins by changing the image you hold of yourself. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next audiobook summary.